Good evening. Welcome to the City Council regular meeting. I am calling this meeting to order. The time is now 6:30 p.m. Please join me in the flag salute. Madam Clerk, will you please take roll call?
Councilmember Gama,
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Here.
Councilmember Martinez.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem McQueen LaJean.
Here.
And Mayor Perez.
Here. Tonight's inspiration will be given by yours truly. And this inspiration will be in honor of Father's Day, since we just had that on Sunday. And I wrote a little bit. Yesterday we celebrated fathers, the unsung heroes who shape our lives in countless ways. Fathers are our first teachers, guiding us with wisdom and strength. They're the pillars of our families, providing support and protection with unwavering love. Through their actions, fathers teach us the value of hard work, integrity, and compassion. I lost my own father when I was 9. My mother remarried and I was raised by a stepfather. That brings me to stepfathers. Stepfathers are not bound by blood, but by the profound love they choose to give. They step into a family, often with open hearts and open arms, embracing not just a partner, but also the children who come with. These men teach us that family is not defined by genetics, but by the bonds we build, the trust we nurture, and the love we share. They show us resilience in the face of new challenges and patience as relationships grow and evolve, and their commitment and dedication demonstrates that real fathers are those who step up when needed most. And this is in honor of my children's stepfather, my husband, Sergeant Perez, who embraced my children and has been raising them as if he were their own. And I want to thank him for all the support he gives to them and unwavering support without question. So thank you. Next, move to public comments. We will hear public comments not pertaining to items on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes, and this process will be the same for comments pertaining to each agenda item. Madam Clerk, do we have any public comments?
We have some public comments. First will be Becky Bruning, followed by Michael J. Murphy.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members and staff, and the audience. I'm here on behalf of the Real Guppy Outdoors tonight. We are having our family fish day this Sunday from 8:30 to 11:30, so we expect to see all of you out there. That's it.
Thank you.
What time was that again? 8:30 to 11:30.
Michael Murphy.
Have to take him off to see. I haven't done a microphone in a long time. I want to thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and all the rest of the City Council members. I thank you for allowing me to speak here tonight. I did vote for every one of you, but I strongly disagree with the council's decisions in one particular area, and I have to come share that with you. Number one, there's actually two. Number one is June 5th, 2023, item number 6, the Pride Flag discussion and Pride Month proclamation. Read all the comments. I had a good time going through the website and doing searches and things of that nature to try and find out how that process took place with the people that I voted for. There was public comments. The city attorney led a discussion the council recommended back in 2023. My memory doesn't serve me correctly, but I think the pride flag was flying earlier than 2023. So I don't know how that happened, but I couldn't find anything. So it was amended and it was seconded to raise the pride flag in perpetuity. The motion passed 5-0. I don't know if it was everybody here. At least that's what it said in the notes. Then there was I only have the draft June 3rd, 2024, the Pride Month proclamation. A little bit of the background information. There was a City Council Agenda Staff Report dated May 8th, 2024. And that was sent up. I've got copies of it here. But it was to adopt a resolution, adopt an outdoor flagpole policy, which included the pride flag for the month of June. The discussion, I'm going to read Exhibit A. I might be running out of some, if I could steal a minute of her, but anyway. The City of Port Hueneme outdoor flag display policy governs the outdoor display of the flags of the United States, State of California, and commemorative flags on flagpoles at city-owned facilities. In adopting this policy, the City Council declares that the city's flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression to the public. I understand that. I'm going to go on to the bottom here. The purpose of this policy is to provide procedural guidance for the outdoor display of flags on city-owned things. The city flagpoles are not intended to serve as a forum for free expression by the public. And I don't know this yet, but there's something called government speech. And I'm not aware of that. I ran into it first. Commemorative flags shall not be displayed in the last. Commemorative flags shall be displayed in the last position of honor. I got half a paragraph here. I just don't understand that you wrote the policy to give yourselves the exception to hang a pride flag there. And I just don't understand it. I don't know where the debate was. I don't know where the understanding came from. I've got 17 grandchildren. I use all the facilities in Port Hueneme. I run around here all the time on the beach every day. I don't go on Saturday, sorry, but one of these days I will. I do clean up as I walk every day. But the bottom line is, the citizens of the city of Port Hueneme do enact this charter to secure the greatest degree of home rule possible for all the citizens of the city. That's from the preamble to the charter to the city of Port Hueneme. I couldn't find your oath of office. I can't hold you to it because I don't know how it is. I could not find it on the website anywhere. The pride flag does not represent all the people in Port Hueneme. You can fly it anywhere you want. But on the city flag, I did 27 years in the military. I was in 68 countries. I did 10 deployments over 10 months, most of them right out of here at Port Hueneme. And I come back and I find this, and I'm really upset. I retired in 2001. I've been working with my grandkids. And I have to do something. It's not warranted, a place next to those flags of honor. And you understand that. If you truly work for the people, I ask that you ask the people. I asked for a referendum for the election this November. I've written a draft one if you want a copy of it. The city of Huntington just did the same thing. They put it to the people, and I ask that you would do the same. Thank you for your time.
Barbara Page.
I really wasn't all prepared for this. I just was going for a walk. I only wanted to just ask, because I was at the, that group that's looking to rebrand us and do, the city, the downtown and all that. I was at that meeting. I just wanted to know what was happening with the rebranding and if that was going back on the election. Because it didn't pass the last time. And that's all I really wanted to know.
Okay, I can speak to that quickly. So right now we're doing an economic development plan.
That's
which,
that's the meeting
yeah,
I
it may
was
have
at.
been the meeting you're at. So that is going to come back to the city council with a draft plan at the second meeting in July, so about a month from now.
Okay.
But it's an economic development plan. It's not a rebranding plan. So just, and I know that word scares people sometimes. It's not, it doesn't talk about rebranding, but it does talk about economic development and some ideas that we can do for economic development. So that'll come back to the council and the public can comment on it on July 17th, or I might have the date. If that's a Monday, the third Monday in July, that's the meeting it's coming to.
Okay, but are we even considering putting that back on the vote? That's
It's
what
not as part of the economic development plan. It
Okay,
would
because
have to
that's what
be-
was discussed. Basically, all the people who did attend there,
Uh-huh.
everybody wants us to rebrand, because without rebranding, we're not going anywhere as a city.
Okay.
That's basically where, I guess I was gonna bring that there, because, you know, it's, you know, we got the Port of LA, you know, and you don't call the whole city of Los Angeles the Port of LA. It's just the same thing. If people don't understand that really what we have here is our beach, there's really nothing for people to really draw much attention. So it's not that, again, it's not like we want to be, and this is what happened at that meeting. Some people there were business owners and whatever, and it's just, you can't really entice people to, you know, be at a port. And granted, the port, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm not used to doing this.
Yeah, no, that's very
Time
good
kinda
feedback.
changed.
Thank you. Thank you.
It just, you can't really entice businesses or, you know, industry or anybody who really wants to come here without it being, knowing about the beach. I didn't even know when I moved here. I moved here from Santa Clarita. I didn't even know there was a beach here. We went driving around with a friend that lived in Oxnard. She said, this beach is where? And she took us to the beach. I'm like, you're gonna be kidding me. And that's when the trailers were up, and that's how we bought our home.
Yeah.
But people don't even know we exist. And like I mentioned to them, you know, we have the college right down in Camarillo. It's such a great opportunity to bring them here, but a lot of people don't know there's a beach. What we have, our jewel, that's our jewel. So I hope that comes back for the election. That's all. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Sorry.
Thank you. Yeah, and I
Thank you. I hope I did
keep an
okay.
eye out, and you can submit public comment or come and talk about it at that meeting. So
Okay. At this kind of meeting?
the July 17th council.
July 17th council meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Dakota Hernandez.
So when I'm at my house, I can barely go outside because these teenagers, they block our driveway and they flashed a gun on me about twice, so I can't go outside. And if they do something bad, they don't get in trouble. But if I do something bad, they get in trouble. If I get in trouble. And I have a question. Do you think that's fair?
And I think, Mr. Hernandez, I think you're already in touch with our police department, so I'm just gonna remind you, and our police are here today, so you can feel free to contact our police department on that matter.
Andrew Hernandez.
And just while Andrew's coming up, Dakota, we couldn't answer you because we're not supposed to enter into a dialogue while we're up here. But thank you for your presentation.
Hello, council, as well as community members, police, fire, first responders. My name's Andrew Hernandez. I know I've emailed a few of you guys before of what happened. I am disabled. I have invisible disabilities of PTSD as well as physical disabilities, which leave me disabled. I'm doing the best I can to provide for my child. I work 4 jobs. I work currently as a Navy contractor. My other job is security services in Ventura County for over 15 years, as well as caregiving. I am a person that's a giver and wanting to heal. Recently, since we moved here 3 years ago, and it's becoming more of an issue within the last few weeks, we've had teenagers literally harassing and terrorizing our neighborhood. We've called police department and we've asked for the investigator to, I've emailed him, and he responded back with pretty much a generic email, just saying, yes, we're doing the best we can. We know everything that's going on, but yet there's no activity being done to protect the neighborhood from the Oxnard residents attacking Jane Drive. I've been told that Jane Drive is a bad neighborhood. It's been known. This is not a first-time issue. There's been drive-bys on our block. There's been other issues. Today on the way here, we were not able to leave our driveway because these teen gangs were blocking our driveway. I called in respect to the police department for assistance and letting them know that we weren't able to leave our driveway, that when I got home, they were flashing signs in our front yard, gang about 15, 20 of them. I could show you on my Ring phone right now. There's about 15 or 20 of them flashing gang signs in our front yard, literally having fist fights in the front. We call police and I'm gaslighted. Why is a law-abiding citizen being gaslit by the local police department? What safe actions do I have? I asked to press charges that night when I was assaulted, yet I was told we do not do that here in Port Hueneme. Why are my rights being violated? I have every right to press charges. I have every right to press a citizen's arrest once I'm assaulted. I was on the phone with 911 and your officers failed to do what they were doing. It's been over 2 weeks. I still have injury on my side. I'm still having pain. It's not right that my son's having to go through this abuse of these kids, these teenagers, because they're low income or because they're poor degenerates. You know what? I came from a small area. I came from a neighborhood deprived of gang activity. I'm pulling myself up. I'm raising my son the right way. I'm trying to tell him to call the police. Can we do a neighborhood watch program? What can we do to safeguard ourselves on Jane Drive? This is not right. It's so bad that Topper's Pizza won't even deliver to us. As my son, would this feel right if it happened to you? Would you, city clerk, city attorney, city manager, Madam Mayor, and council member, would you guys do you guys feel safe walking around your house with a loaded firearm or a potential loaded firearm to feel safe in your own home? Would you feel comfortable answering the door to open your door to have somebody at your doorsteps barricading you into your home, throwing beer cans at you and assaulting you and being told you're not allowed to protect yourself because they're teenagers? Being told you're not allowed to protect yourself or your home because they're not past your threshold. My neighbors next door are LGBTQ community. I have nothing against it. I love everybody. If you're happy, that's the way you're supposed to be. That's the way we heal. My neighbors have been attacked over the last 3 years. Recently, we had, we thought was a drive-by because of the recent activity that we had and the threats that we got. We thought it was a drive-by. We called 911. They come out, find out that they threw 3 objects through the window. My neighbors were assaulted. Our window has $3,000 worth of damage. My landlord came down, the owner of our building came down to this city from LA to file a stay-away order from these kids and these 2 people, or these 2 households. He came here to your city, and your city denied him, saying he's not a victim of any kind of assault, or he's not a victim of anything. Where he is, that's financial. We lost a window. He's having to pay $3,000 or plus to fix a window. How is he not a victim?
Thank
How
you.
am I not a victim?
Thank you, Mr.
How is
Hernandez.
not my son a victim, nor the rest of the building community?
So the council's not able to talk about any item that's not on the agenda per the law, but we have our police officers here in this meeting tonight, so I would encourage you to connect with them. If you have video evidence to bring it to their attention.
It has been brought to their attention. It has been forwarded to their email. Like I said, I contacted your internal investigations unit. I tried contacting your 2 watch commanders, which they said that I do not have rights to press charges, which I'm very concerned about. I've tried communicating with your police department. They gaslight me. I've tried contacting your police department. I've tried contacting the district attorney as well as victim services for my child for having a gun put to his head. It's not right. As a law-following citizen, am I allowed to carry my Second Amendment right to ensure my safety because the police department is failing to negotiate their part of the business terms with the city?
Okay, we'll have somebody get in touch with you, but we do have to continue.
Okay,
the
thank you.
meeting.
Thank you for letting me be heard, because this is not right. I should not be having to live in fear. I lived in fear with domestic abuse for 10 years now. I'm trying to heal. Thank you for
we'll
your
have our
time.
team get it back in touch with you. Thanks.
And we have one written public comment. I would like to ask the city to review bicycle safety on Channel Islands Boulevard. The eastbound side of Channel Islands between Victoria and Ventura Road offers a 1-foot shoulder pinned against guardrails, making it unsafe for cyclists. Many cyclists, including myself, choose to ride on the opposite side of Channel Islands Road because it has a larger shoulder and sidewalk. The safety issue with riding in the opposite direction of traffic on Channel Islands is that drivers are paying attention to the oncoming traffic, meaning pedestrians and cyclists are not being seen while traffic leaves Boca Road. Not only is riding the wrong direction less safe, it is also not legal. How is the city expecting cyclists to break the law to remain safe? I was riding on the sidewalk heading east, going the opposite direction of traffic, and proceeded into the crosswalk where I was struck by a vehicle that did not come to a complete stop, nor did they look in my direction at all. A month before being struck by a car, I witnessed another cyclist struck by a car at Patterson and Channel Islands in the crosswalk going the opposite direction, and the driver never looked at the intersection to see if pedestrians or cyclists were coming. Some suggestions are as follows. create a wider, safer shoulder for cyclists or a bike lane for cyclists heading east on Channel Islands Boulevard. Put a traffic light at Bolker and Channel Islands. Do not allow left-hand turns on Channel Islands from Bolker. Accidents happen often at Bolker and Channel Islands Road. A resident who lives at the apartments on the intersection witnessed a car striking me. The witness told me accidents frequently occur involving pedestrians at Bolker and Channel Islands. Thanks, Ricardo Holden. And that concludes public comment.
Thank you. We will now move on to agenda approval. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved?
Second.
Do any members of the council have any conflicts of interest to disclose for any item on the agenda tonight? Seeing none, we'll move on to presentations. The first presentation we have is the 2023 State of the Region Report by Ventura County Civic Alliance.
Madam Mayor, can we just finish the vote for the agenda really quick?
Oh,
I'm sorry.
yeah, sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Trying to move us on.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Thank you. Go ahead. You're up.
Good evening. I'm David Marin with the Ventura County Civic Alliance. Every 2 years, we produce the State of the Region report, which covers a variety of information throughout the county. For the audience, this is also available on our website at civicalliance.org. You can donate it for free. We go around the county to share this with city councils, community organizations. We cannot give these books away for free without the generosity of our sponsors. A few larger sponsors: Ventura County Community Foundation, Ventura County Community College District, Era Energy, AT&T, Channel Islands University, Limoneira, County of Ventura, and the Port of Hueneme. So I'm going to cover quite a few things, but I want to start off with this. Page 8 and 9 are key statistics. The city of Port Hueneme is the fourth youngest, or you have the fourth lowest number of people under 18. But the key takeaway is in that upper right corner where you see the median age is up to 38.7. That was in 2021. Looking at the years, you can see we are consistently getting older. And in 2022, the number from the U.S. Census is 39 years old. So we have a problem in Ventura County that we're getting older. And we're not, well, and I'll deal with that a little more later. So I'll hit some highlights with agriculture. So strawberries continue to power our agricultural industry. We have about $2 billion of agricultural work in our county, represents about 4% of our overall economy. We ship our products all around the world. You're elected officials, so I always like to show the statistics looking at the registration. Blue is Dems, green is no party preference, red is Republican. You can see over the last 22 years that Dems have increased slightly, but the no party preference has really increased at the expense of the Republican Party. You can also see this number by city. Ventura, or as far as Port Hueneme, it is now a majority Democratic city. The only city in the county that is plurality Republican is Simi Valley. So over time, we've seen quite a bit of change in the last 20, 30 years. I like to share this screen about nonprofits because it's overlooked as far as how large our nonprofit sector is. Over 10,000 people in the county work in the nonprofit community, generating almost $500 million worth of wages. In the economy, this is a tougher slide to show here, but I want to let you see how to look at it. There's one for the cost of the goods producing industries. This is for service providing salaries and jobs. The top is jobs, the bottom is salaries. And what you see that we're seeing some increase in salaries pretty much across the board on the bottom. But what we're having the problem with in the top is that we're losing jobs in the higher paying industries. So things like financial services, we see a decline, but those salaries are up over 100,000. So we have an imbalance in Ventura County. We are creating more jobs in the hospitality and lower paying areas, and our young people need to be able to have higher paying jobs to be able to afford to live here. Our gross county product, much like the nation, but this is for Ventura County, we've been hovering in the 50 billion range for quite a while. This is adjusted for inflation dollars, so it is a true representation. The problem is, and we are doing worse than the state and the nation. The state and the nation have been seeing their gross domestic products increase. But when we hit our next recession, Ventura County may not be ready for it. It may hit us pretty hard. Taxable sales is good news for most of our cities. This is, of course, over the pandemic. 2020 is orange, blue is 2022. You can see that Port Hueneme had an increase. But what we've done here is show you the sales per capita in the county, and you can see that at $9,500. Port Hueneme is at the low end of all of the cities. Obviously, cities like Thousand Oaks, they have car sales. They have a huge shopping mall, so they are going to be stronger. You're fighting back with cannabis to stay in the running, but you could see that Port Hueneme just doesn't match up with somebody like Ojai, where they have a lot more tourism. This is the transient occupancy tax. Speaking of Ojai, you can see they're off the charts, but they have the Ojai Valley Inn. Mr. Vega, I know you know Ojai very well, and congratulations on your move. As far as City of Port Hueneme, though, you've seen some nice growth in tourism. Education, I spoke earlier about we're getting older, and this is where it's starting to show up, is where we see declining enrollment across the age band. So this projects that we're going to continue to see declining enrollment. For the audience, the blue at the top is grades kindergarten through 8th. Green is for our high schools. The steep decline that's happening in the elementary schools, we're going from 97,000 in 2014, expecting to get down to 72,000 in 2030. So that's going to have repercussions as well. Here's what it looks like in your community. Hueneme Elementary, you can see back just really 2019-20, there were 7,900 students, and that's fallen by over 10% to 2022 number. I'm often asked, well, isn't that just kids being homeschooled? And no, the numbers are just too dramatic to be reflected in homeschool. Community colleges saw a decline because of the pandemic, especially. From what I've heard, those numbers are coming back, but I don't think it's going to be quite as strong as pre-pandemic anytime soon. The red up there is Channel Islands University. The purple in the middle is California Lutheran. You can see the steep decline that they are seeing as well. Okay. This is a good slide I always like to show. It's the value of education. If you have a child or a grandchild wondering, should I go on to high school or to college? For a high school graduate, I'll use a male. They make about an average of $37,000 a year. But if that same male continues and gets their bachelor degree, they can look forward to making over twice that amount per year. So think of how much that pays over a lifetime. And even if you only go to community college, it pays off. It's same for men and women. Unfortunately, we have an equity issue where women aren't paid as much as men, but if you have the wherewithal to go to college, it can surely pay. Land use, we are really not building enough homes. You can see we've plateaued over here on the housing permits. And this is the staggering one as far as what the apartments are going for in Ventura County. So as of 2023, the Oxnard Port Hueneme average rent for all sizes averaged out was $2,500. You can see on the top part of that slide, the blue, we were pretty much level for many years till about 2014, and then things started taking off. The average around the county, $2,700 for a 2-bedroom unit. Why is that happening? Well, the green line is showing you the vacancy rate, and we have such low stock that landlords are in the driver's seat. Less than 3% of the apartments in our county are available. So the landlord could ask for multiple pieces of earnings. They can want to look at your social media, whatever they want. They're not worried. They know they can rent that apartment. But it's supply and demand, and there's a lot of demand. Where this gets really bad, though, is imagine your child graduates from CI. They want to get a job. The higher paying jobs might be in Thousand Oaks, but the more affordable place to live is Fillmore. So now they're on the road, so it's more traffic congestion because of these things. So we we have a lot to work on. Not all bad news. Ventura County is doing really well in the environment. Our oceans are clean. Our air quality is at record lows as far as pollution. Solar energy, we've been growing that every year. We almost make as much as the old Ormond Beach plant. So good news there. Oil and gas, we have been using less oil or pulling less out of the ground. Same with natural gas. That's what we want. People are transitioning to solar. We're making more power that way. There's more charts about this in the report. Now, of course, that's a financial thing. Once things get expensive for oil, you'll see the more drilling. Port Hueneme does great on the average water use per person in the city. Public health, this one, just to spend a couple of moments, this is where our problem is. We have a declining birth rate. In 2021, only 8,800 children were born in our county. If you go back to 1980, about the same number, 9,100 were born. And back then, the county had a third less of the population. You can see in 1990, we were having about 19 births per 1,000 residents. We're down to 10. This is the challenge, and it's because young people are thinking, I can't afford to live here, so they move away, or they're deciding that we can only have one kid, not 2 or 3. I think all of us have to figure out better policies to encourage family formation, and it's a really tough problem. My time's just about up, so I'll just move through here. Ventura County is the safest county of the 15 largest. We do break out property crime and violent crime. Port Hueneme is the second highest city on these numbers for property crimes, a little bit better on the violent crime, so something to keep an eye on. There's the property crime, you can see at 18.4, and this is based off the Department of Justice numbers. So we have homeless in here, transportation, vehicle miles traveled, and I know my time's up, so thank you very much. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer it again. The report is available online at civicalliance.org, and we'll do our next report next year.
Does council have any questions? Mr. Councilmember Gama?
Could you go back to the fentanyl slide that you skipped over,
yeah,
and
would
just
love-
to
would
elaborate on what that means to our county and our region?
Yes. Oops. Oh, sorry. Whoops, public health. Yeah, we have a serious problem here in Ventura County with opioids, and as a reminder, opioids can be both prescription. It doesn't mean illegal drugs. It could be people getting hooked on Percocet or Oxycontin. This one chart here is showing the fentanyl deaths, and it surprises many people to see that our rate of death from fentanyl is higher than LA County and Orange County. Now, the good news is police are now carrying the Narlox, the injectable to help bring this down, but from 2019, we had 40 deaths from fentanyl. We quadrupled that in about 4 years. So significant problem, and it's still out there very much. Thank you for the opportunity to show that, Mr. Gama.
Any further questions from council? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation.
Thank you. And I've left reports for you, Mr. Vega, and your staff. Thank you.
The next presentation is the 201 Ventura County Port Hueneme City Stats presentation by Interface Children and Family Services.
Good evening, Mayor, Pro Tem, council members and staff. Appreciate the opportunity to come and speak with you. Eric Sternad, I'm the Executive Director at Interface Children and Family Services, and we operate the 211 program for the County of Ventura. So we had about 70,000 unique visitors contacting 211. And so I'm here representing that $500 million industry that David was just talking about, the nonprofit industry across the county. So so you can reach 211 in a number of different ways. And 211 really is funded through the contributions of the cities, including yours, so we appreciate that, and the county, and this is how we're able to bring the service forward to the community. 211 is just one of the programs at Interface, so we have on the screen the different kinds of services that Interface provides to the community domestic violence and child abuse prevention, human trafficking prevention and intervention, justice services, which is quite a large and growing area for us, both with adults and juveniles, mental health trauma treatment, and then youth crisis and homeless services. So our 2-on-1 work is really embedded in a wide array of services that we have, making us kind of one of the unique 2-on-1s in California. So what is 2-on-1? 2-on-1 is a single place for the public to reach any kind of health and human service that they're looking for. So the folks can search 3 ways: by just dialing the 3-digit 2-on-1 number, or searching at 2on1ventura.org, and you can search yourself for resources, or texting your zip code to 898-211. And so this is a screenshot that's similar to the website, where there's kind of a guided search you can go through. You can also type in specific things, but if you're not really sure what you're looking for, this can be an easy way to navigate so the public can look for whatever available resources are in the community. We can't provide what isn't available, but what we absolutely can do, and we do this all the time, is scour the resources that are available, from county services to nonprofits to faith-based organizations, whatever services are available, and then bring those to bear so that folks can gain access to them when they're looking for help. So again, thank you for helping us to get this out to the public, that these are 3 very simple ways that folks can reach 2-on-1. And we know that city staff are also able to call us, make their job much quicker, because we know exactly what services are available, what the eligibility criteria are, and we can save city staff time in terms of connecting residents to the types of services that they might need. So here's kind of a range of numbers to look at from the callers that called into 2-on-1 from Port Hueneme. So about 500 information referral contacts. About 200 were first-time callers. Mostly it's word of mouth or referrals from other nonprofits saying, hey, we're going to help you with X, Y, and Z, but if you need other support, you can call 2-on-1, and we love to be partnering up with them that way. So you see it's about 70 families with kids under 5, and about 4% of all of the calls that come in are crisis calls. We're not marketed as a crisis hotline, but we do get suicide calls, we get active domestic violence calls, rape crisis calls. So these are important calls that we can either patch directly into 911 and to our law enforcement partners, or to other emergent services as there are available in the community for them. We categorize all of the requests for service through a national taxonomy system. It's like the Dewey Decimal System, which I'm aging myself by describing it that way. But those of you of a certain age will remember that library system. So it's a system of 100 different classifications of the types of needs, and then we're able to then report this data. You can also go on, and I would encourage the city staff to look at the 2on1ventura.org site. We have a live Power BI version that you can drill down to. You can compare Port Hueneme to other cities. You can look at it across time. You can look at different issues and drill down and see what is it that people are asking for from your community. So for about 10 years across the entire county, it's been housing, housing, housing. As you heard from David's presentation, this is a huge issue, and the public is calling 2-on-1 looking for either shelter or rental support or housing, generally speaking. Then you see some of the other breakdowns, and these again are all from Port Hueneme residents specifically looking for support in the community. We do some special projects at 2-on-1 as well, because again, if we have 70,000 people querying the system that we have and looking for help, this is also an opportunity to be able to plug people into services that might be helpful for them. So we were actually approached, 2-on-1 at the state level was approached by the public health department at the state level, wanting to say, hey, can you offer access to a smoking cessation or to tobacco cessation programs? And in fact, 2-on-1 is probably even more successful than healthcare is in terms of getting people to move off of tobacco products. And we just do that by making referrals. We're working with younger and more hard-to-reach population, but it's very successful, and that's really improving the overall health of residents. Interface itself actually created a multi-year contract with both Southern California Edison and PG&E up in the north to help residents out during public safety power shutoffs. We're now in our 3rd year of that, and we had a pretty amazing presentation from PG&E recently, which I think is probably mirrored in Southern California Edison. The 3rd top reason why consumers are calling PG&E up in the north is actually to reach 211. So it's been very successful as a way to get resources to vulnerable families when there's any kind of de-energization that happens. We're running a Ventura versus Hate program, which is a hate reporting line for any community members who feel like they've been a subject of a hate crime. And this is a way for us to then help guide them to available resources in the community. And then lastly, we're part of a Southern California 211 ride program. So imagine if someone's car breaks down Sunday night, they need to get to work in the morning, they don't use the bus system, they don't know how that works. They can reach 211, we can help them with trip planning and say, take the orange line 42 and then transfer to this line and help someone to keep their job and keep them mobile even in those kind of emergency situations. So that's a great free resource. About a third of the callers are unable to reach the services that we refer them to because they don't have the transportation for it. So it's been a really critical addition to make sure that 211 is really useful. So just a quick note on the Ventura County versus hate. A 40% increase in hate crimes from 20 to 21. And so that's really been a part of what's really driven the creation of this program across the state. So happy to answer any questions, but certainly we're deeply appreciative of the support that you provide for your 211. And if there's anything else that we can do to help aid the city in getting services to your residents, please let us know.
Thank you so much for your presentation. Does council have any questions? Councilmember Gama.
I was trying to write down what says text your zip code to get services.
Yes,
What was that
text
code?
your zip code to 898-211. And that will then start a text conversation.
898-211?
898-211. Yeah.
And so that will deliver you to a menu of services and help you navigate
Yeah, so
what's
what
available?
that'll actually do is put you in touch with our staff directly, just via text. Some people would rather have that conversation via text as opposed to a phone call.
Thank you.
You're welcome. It's a great way then also for residents to have the record of their information and the resources we've given them in text. And so sometimes even for voice callers, we'll ask them, would you like us to text this information to you? Now they have a permanent record of all the resources that we provided for them.
Did you bring any marketing material or flyers or anything like that?
I didn't to hand out, but we certainly can do that. But I did bring some packets for you that shows some of the types of material that we have. So if that's of interest, we can absolutely get you some rack cards, or we actually created some business-size cards for law enforcement because it was a great way for them to be able to hand that 211 call card out, enable them to get onto their next call, and provide something tangible for residents that might need it.
Perfect, thank you. Anyone else have questions?
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Hi, Eric, good to
Hi.
see you.
Yeah, good to see you.
So 211, I've worked with you before many
Mhm.
years ago, and it's developed quite well. I mean, it's just, it's really nice to see the online capacity now that you
Yeah.
have. I wonder if you could just walk us through what happens when somebody calls, you get a voice call for
Yeah.
somebody who needs a place to live.
Sure.
What happens?
Yeah.
And how does that referral work?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we'll start out with just a brief question. We'll ask folks, what's the zip code you live in? So that helps us to really narrow down what are those available resources near them. Do they have transportation to get to those any resources? We'll also then explore what some of the other features of that family are, because sometimes someone's asking for housing because they can't afford the place they're in now, but maybe we find out that they might qualify for another program that helps offset their budget to the extent that then now they can afford that. In fact, I took a call myself a couple of years back and spoke with a woman who was the single breadwinner for her family. Her parents were elderly, and they were in the eviction process. They were going to lose the family home, her parents' home, and we found out that she qualified for food support, from financial support, because of the number of mouths she was feeding. And if we had only gotten to her a couple of months before, they could have kept their house, right? So that's really part of what 211 can do, is explore the immediate issue that's presented, but then we also know what other services are available and other ways that folks can maybe try to solve that problem. And that's sometimes kind of complex to do. So we'll kind of do that general surveying, and then we'll provide the actual resources. So here's how rental assistance works. Here's a shelter in your area. Here are the hours of operation. You need to bring these kinds of documents so you don't get turned away at the door. All those things that can be barriers for folks to access care.
Wow, that's really great to hear that you actually work with the person calling. So I remember days we'd just get a phone number, and then you'd have to, hang up and try reaching
I
that
know.
phone number. And,
Yeah.
But it sounds like you're like mini caseworkers.
Exactly right. Yeah, and some people say,
Through the
well,
process.
can't someone just get this by searching Google? Well, try that.
Yeah.
Try say, I don't have housing. You'll get, 50 resources, that don't give you any help at all. And then, of course, it'll miss some of these other really important ways to solve those problems. So it is, because these tend to be more complex situations, having a human do that is pretty vital.
That's great. Great service.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming tonight to speak to us. And please extend my thanks to your call takers. as
Will
well.
do. Thank you. Happy to do that.
Tim, do you have any questions? All right, thank you so much. for
All right,
coming.
thank you.
The next presentation we have up is the Annual Regional Defense Partnership Trip to Washington, D.C. presentation. And I believe Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Hernandez are going to be giving that presentation.
Yeah, I think Mayor Pro Tem's going to start off.
Perfect.
I'll just fill in the gaps if there are any.
Good evening, everyone. So we're going to give a brief presentation regarding the trip that myself and Councilwoman Hernandez took with the Regional Defense Partnership. We traveled to DC in March 18th through the 20th. I actually participated the 18th through the 19th. I came back early for a Wainimi Elementary School event. So I'm going to present. This is not meant to be a history behind the RDP, or is it meant to give you all the information about all the things RDP has done, but it's about the trip that we actually took. So I have some slides here that can be available to you at your request. I won't be reading every word on the slide, and I might not spend a lot of time on each slide, but I'm just going to give you the information that I think you want to know about your council members going out of the state, attending a conference or an event. So this is our way of providing you that information. Okay, so this is the mission of, it says RDP 21, but we've now changed the name to RDP, so we got rid of the 21st century. And as I'm talking to you, if you're very interested in the topic, if you would just be reading through while I highlight on some things. But I think the important thing here to know that RDP is it's a collaborative effort with the military, the communities, and to try to entice people to take advantage of the things that the military has and the community has, and in that collaboration, hopefully come up with something better that's good for all of us. So the RDP partnership is made up of the Ventura County Board of Supervisors, mayors, city council members, elected officials. There are some senior base officials. We have the Ventura Economic Development Collaborative, local chamber of commerce. So there's a lot of people who are involved with the RDP partnership. Now this is just a organizational chart, so to speak, of the folks that are officially tied to RDP in its board and also in its strategic committee. And as you see, I am a council member that is a RDP member, along with Kelly Long, Supervisor Kelly Long, Supervisor Vinia Lopez, and then we have our other members of RDP down at the bottom. Terry Clark is a retired senior service executive from the Department of the Navy. Then we have Charlotte Craven, who is the secretary or treasurer. And then down at the bottom, you might know Selena Zacharias, who serves as the senior director of community and government relations at Cal State Channel Islands, who's also the president of the port. And on the right side there, you'll see the folks who actually went on the trip this year. And so some people you might be familiar with in this room is we had Councilmember Gabby Basua. She joined us this year. Myself, again, Councilmember woman Hernandez. You see some supervisors in there, Chief of Staff for Supervisor Lopez, Supervisor Long, and Supervisor Long. So there was a good group of folks that represent a lot of organizations across Ventura County who are members or tied to RDP and who went to Washington, D.C. to lobby for support and give appreciation to those organizations who have already provided the military. And when I say the military, Naval Base Ventura County, we have to remember that we have, I say constituents, we have residents that actually work on base. And so we are not just providing, we should not look at it only as a military base, but it's a organization who helps with our own economic development as well. And so this is the list of the purpose of our visit, to make and support legislative requests, address important issues, to visit base sponsors and customers, and to gather information about some things that might be available to us that we don't know, and then to provide information to those that we visit to provide them information they may not be aware of. And so Naval Base Ventura County is made up of the Point Mugu Naval Base, San Nicolas Island, and also the Port Hueneme base here. And this is just a list of some facilities that are tied to the Naval Base Ventura County. And down at the very bottom is a really important area that I think needs to be called out. That's the Navy's largest air and sea test range. And what's really interesting about the test range there is that the port, actually, the ships that go to the port actually come through that, the sea range, to actually come into the port and deliver goods. So there's a tie-in as well. This is some additional information. At the bottom corner, there is the photo of the port. And if you look at the very far bottom right, and then the maybe bottom to the left, middle left, that is the section of the port that the military uses. And so the port actually has the portion that's at the top middle portion of this picture here. And so the uniqueness of the Naval Base Ventura County is that it has, of course, the deepwater port. It has railhead, and that's where we have railroads that traffic that start and depart from a location on MBVC. 36,000 square miles of test range, we talked about that. 125,000 square miles of instrumented sea and space range. So out of the Point Mugu military facility, they have access. They are watching the seas. They have 125,000 miles of instrumentation that sees the seas and the airs. And then there's some additional information there. Okay, so this is really what really was very important to us being able to go to DC to do the lobbying. So prior to going to DC, we have pre-visits with local leaders on the military facilities. These leaders are both military and civilians. And so these are the list of leading up to that April 18th departure. About 3 weeks before, we went to meet all of in the office of all of these folks. And so what the conversation was around is like, what's eating your lunch? What is stopping you from getting your job done? What are some of the things that are pertinent to military security that we need to be talking to folks, legislators, congressmen, senators in Washington, D.C.? And so this photo here is just our visit at the Channel Islands Air Station National Guard. And so these are the 2024 primary issues that we went to DC and we spoke to folks about. And so you may have heard some of these. Some of them, for instance, the naval base electric power resiliency. So that's an issue that both Point Mugu, we know both Point Mugu and Port Hueneme has continued to deal with. When we went to visit with the leaders at Point Mugu, they had just come, I think the day before, they had just come off of a electrical shutdown that was caused because critters got into underground and bit into some wires, right? And so the whole base, not the whole base, but there was a majority of the base and the ranges that were shut down. They could not do work because of that purpose. And so one of the big issues was trying to get an updated electrical grid so that they don't have to worry about little animals biting into wires and creating shutdowns that cause hundreds of millions of dollars. There is another one, the Intelligence Community Directive 705 impacts. That is one that is talking about infrastructure requiring a higher level facilities than they currently have, and so the inability to do high-level GENSR or top-secret work, they're lacking infrastructure to do that. And so when you don't have infrastructure to do that and you don't have infrastructure to have classified conversations, that really holds up a lot of very important work. So that was another item. So I hope you all had a chance to read through some of these. But these are the 8 items that we went to Washington, D.C. and spoke to those that we met on that day. Some we talked about maybe one thing, and someone else we talked about another thing. So we didn't talk about all things to everyone, just the folks that it was pertinent to. And so these were the talking points. Some of the other things, we talked about unmanned systems here at Port Hueneme, the Stingray, and a number of other concerns with hangars and housing where they house the equipment, airplanes, and things that are of classified nature. Upgrades on the pier. Talked about, again, unmanned, the DDG-1000, another unmanned surface ship. And MILCONs for laboratories. MILCONs are just military construction, and usually those are over several millions of dollars. And the issue here is that we could only go to DC and lobby for things that were already in the queue. So we found that some of the things that we really would have liked to help with, they were not in the queue already, so we couldn't really do too much about them, but there were some items we were able to talk about. And so these are just the list of visits that we had. You see some photos here. We met with or went to Senator LaFonza Butler's office. We did meet with someone else. She wasn't there. We went to Senator Alex Padilla, Congresswoman Julia Brownley, Congressman Salud Carbajal, the office of Kent Calvert, House Armed Service Committee. We saw the minority leader, and so so we were in the rooms with some people who really had the authority to make some decisions, and so we're appreciative of that. And then these are some of the other offices that we went to. Okay. And these are some of the results today that have happened already. So we made and supported legislative requests and issues. So we've asked people for things, right? We asked for letters. We asked for them to make connections, talk to other people that had maybe a higher level of authority. So we weren't shy at what we really wanted, and we asked for it. Let's see. You see here, you all probably all know Congresswoman Brownley. We asked her for a request letter to the Navy on the power issue. What was happening is that we were asking for information from the military facility, and we weren't able to get it. So we asked Congresswoman Brownlee to request it and provide that to us so that we could see what next steps would be for us. And we did have from the Test Resource Management Center we visited, they are already working with Moore Park College and Cal State Channel Islands on a non-degree artisan intern program. And so what this came from is we talked to a lot of folks from the military, and so a lot of times it's not that difficult to get degreed engineers, right? Because we know we need engineers. People go to school for engineering, but we don't find a lot of time that people are going for the undegreed areas, like mechanics, like technicians, and other areas. So those are the areas that we're looking at trying to help the military and other organizations get programs so that we can train up in those areas that we find that we're lacking these days. You know, we used to have mechanics, doing the hard work, carpenters, and we used to have things in school where people could, the students could learn those skills from technical schools and different things like that. And we just don't have those anymore, so we're really lacking in those areas. So we have had some contact already with that. The NDAA included our request. We talked about the power grid, the hangar funding, and again, when I talked about classified information and infrastructure for classified work, laboratories, and even just conversation, that's where we have the SCIFs issue and the impacts of funding. What we found with that is that there have been some rules put in place to where organizations have to upgrade their infrastructures to be able to, and I know I had 10 minutes, so you all please tell me, I might be there now, but tell me. So what's happening is that there has been some rules placed on the need for higher classification infrastructure to do business, but there's been no funding to do that. So organizations are struggling to get the infrastructure they need because they can't get the funding. If you can't get the funding, you can't upgrade your infrastructure, so it's like a cyclical kind of thing. And so, last slide, and so the change of command for the Naval Base Ventura County's commander, Commander Kim Knock, we know we had a great rapport with him. We created a great relationship with him. The change of command has now happened. He's been relieved. We have a new Naval Base Ventura County commander. It is Captain Daniel DB is his call sign, DB Brown. And so it looks like to me, we're gonna be starting over and developing some relationships. And so I'm sure we're gonna be on that really quickly. We all got a chance, most of us got a chance to meet him either at the RDP meeting, last RDP meeting, or at the change of command. So we're really looking forward to working with the new commander, NVVC commander, and getting to know him and let him get to know us so he knows that we're all about getting the business done. And so that is the presentation. Councilwoman Hernandez, did you have anything to add?
No, you did a great job. Thank you. I just wanted to say for all the issues that we took to DC, we had issue papers developed through the Strategic Planning Committee so that we could operate from the same page. And we took turns introducing the issues and introducing the group and who RDP was. And we worked very closely with the lobbyists there. And so I think it was a very productive trip. You know, we actually see results. You know, when we come back, we hear that some things have passed and some things have been approved. So definitely a worthwhile effort. So thank you for approving us to go.
If I can just say two more things. One of the things that we know is that NBVC is working right now to get a new tenant command on base, bringing 700 new employees. That's important. The other thing that I think we learned at going back, at least a couple times that we've been back the last couple of years, is that the Navy it's a big Navy, but it's not a big Navy. When we went into the military offices that we were, there was quite a few of our meetings and the rooms that we went in some of us knew people that were in these positions. So we already had rapport, relationships created, which really helped at us being able to talk about the things that we were requesting and needing. So everyone was receptive. There were some people, I tell you, when we share with them what the concerns were and what the issues that were being had in our local areas, they had no idea. And you can't really do something about something when you don't know that it's happening. And so that was, I think, an added value we were able to communicate and then learn some information about possibility of some grants that might be available because we are outside the gate from a military facility. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. You give a presentation like a teacher. Very good. Very well done. Does council have any questions? Councilmember Martinez.
No, thank you so much, Mayor Pro Tem McQueen LeJohn, for the presentation. I was wondering, did the power grid affect families' homes too? I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah, yes, it did. Some homes there on the base.
Okay.
On talking about Point Mugu at this time, so
Oh,
there
okay.
was some loss at Point Mugu.
Were there any other talking points that directly were like to help our residents that live on the base or any of the local military families? I didn't see any in your presentation.
Yeah, there was one very quick, and I think it was added with something else. So part of the conversations we had were about services to the military and military families. What came out of a visit we had at Point Mugu, so it surrounded daycare, military folks at Point Mugu taking sometimes an hour away from their work to have to drop their children off and go back to work because there used to be a daycare center at, well, there was, I don't know, I believe it's not there now at the level that they have over here, but they used to have a daycare, they used to have a grocery store. Now they only have they don't have a, what do you call it, NEX? They don't have NEX, they have a small one like a grocery store, like a market. But that's all they have at Point Mugu. And so they have to travel over to Port Hueneme to get the services.
Medical services as well.
Medical services as
Yeah,
well. They have a
that's an
small
issue.
dispensary, but it doesn't provide medical care. You can go there and get medicines and stuff like that, but it doesn't. So yeah, so that was we talked about that. We actually met with I think it was no, CNIC. That's not Rosen, is it? No, I think he's not. Yeah, we did go to the office of the CNIC, and he is the person that is responsible for all facilities in the Southwest region. And so we were able to communicate that, and yeah, so we didn't. So we talked about everything that we thought that we got from all the organizations, and that was one of them. The other thing is that, family housing there is some family housing in Camarillo. And think about, you have to go from Camarillo, you have to come to Port Hueneme to drop your kids off at daycare, then you have to go to Point Mugu to work, right? You have to do that. Then you have to be there by a certain time. So there's a lot of things that we talked about, military services.
Are there any other ideas or talking points that RDP can directly help our residents here? Like any other ideas, such as, or even just with the base, like providing, like how we used to provide services in the past? Have there been any talks like that so that we can do more work with the base?
Yeah. So let me I'll say it this way. So when we went to visit our pre-visits, we really took the top items that those commanders and those leaders wanted us to take to Washington, D.C. And so they didn't get too in-depth about specifically other things, but they did talk about having housing for military people who come here that can't afford to live. We heard tonight paying $2,500, a month or whatever. But housing was one, daycare was one, and then medical. But I don't think they went too far down from that, did they?
A few years ago, another issue was the licensing for the wives of the enlisted who would come here from out of state. They had a cosmetician license or
And teachers.
yeah, and teachers. Their license didn't apply here because it didn't meet California standards. So we lobbied for that in DC, and they actually initiated some legislation after that to allow them to work in California with an existing license from other states in those areas. So that really helped with their income. You know, they don't make a lot of money, and so it helped with their families. But as far as communities, I think most of the efforts are really directed at supporting base operations, making sure that base can function. When it comes to community relations, there is that one organization that I think the military committee will be working on. I think you sit on that, right, Mayor? And
Right. Well, thank you for the presentation.
Councilmember Gama?
I just want to, I think what I hear from Councilmember Martinez is that the enlisted personnel that come here have real needs, and sometimes we see some of the tragic outcomes of not having their needs addressed. So I do just echo that, like, you know, hey, let's think about the human factor of the residents that come to Hueneme. 211 might be a great service for them as well, but let's see if we could bring all our greatest ideas and programs together so that not only are these great services available to the residents, but also, more importantly, to the new residents that come here that find themselves in crisis trying to get acclimated to a new place.
I think that goes with our partnership goals with the Navy, talking about what they need and what we can do to help make sure they get the things that they need. Do you have anything, Councilmember Hernandez?
well, that's one of the things we are thinking about as we plan for the 700 families that are going to be coming to live here with the next new command. I think it's new. But yeah, there's a lot of commands on that base.
Okay, thank you so much. So we'll move on to the consent calendar.
Mayor,
We'll now
could I quickly, during the city manager's report tonight, we were going to, I was going to ask Commander Albertson to speak for just one moment about the 4th of July and how we're taking steps to prepare for that. But looking at the agenda and seeing it's a very long meeting and that we'll be doing it probably pretty late at night and we won't have anybody watching at that point.
Would you like him to give his presentation
I would ask if the council would allow Commander Albertson to give that brief explanation now.
Do you need a motion to bring it forward?
No, I think we can allow Commander Albertson to give the presentation. We just can't take any action on it. So it's just a verbal update. And again, just because I know we've been talking about it, but we know that the public is going to start preparing for 4th of July soon. So.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, members of staff, members of the public. So some of the things that we're doing so far to address 4th of July and the fireworks situation is we've started a social media campaign. We'll continue to do that throughout the next upcoming weeks. We also plan on deploying our message boards, reminding the residents that all fireworks are illegal, reminding them of what the maximum fine is if they're cited or arrested. We plan on putting on several special enforcement and suppression details, which will include regular patrol, extra patrol, bike patrol, foot patrol, patrol with our off-road Polaris down at the beach, and that will continue from now until 4th of July, maybe even a little beyond 4th of July, depending on what the circumstances are after the holiday is over. And then 4th of July itself, we do plan to upstaff so that we will have extra patrol deployment that night. That's about what we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just will note, I have actually had a couple people who emailed me and just said, if I know someone who fires off fireworks every year, what should I do? And we told them today, in the last couple of days, if you know someone's doing it, send us the information because we can always go out and try to talk to people and just remind them of what is and is not allowed. So if you know something, say something over the next couple of weeks, and then otherwise we've got our officers and our plan for how we're going to handle it. So.
Yeah, we have a dedicated fireworks email address, but we also ask people when it's happening to call. A lot of times we'll get emails 2 or 3 days later. It's important that if residents see someone lighting fireworks off or they know it's happening at a certain residence, to give us a call when it's actually happening. That makes it a lot easier for us to take action.
Thank you. I think
Commander?
Joan's about to tell us not to talk anymore about it, I think.
Oh.
That's exactly what Tom was about.
Okay, all right. Thank you,
I had a
Commander.
question.
I guess we can, it's not on the agenda.
Yeah.
Question,
Yeah.
call 911 or call your non-emergency line?
It's emergency call 911. If it's not emergency, call 911.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, now we will move forward to
I
the
saw the
consent
sign.
calendar. So we'll consider items on the consent calendar which will be enacted in one motion unless a council member has a request to remove an item for discussion. Do any council members have a request to remove an item?
I do.
Which number?
Number 8.
Okay. Any other?
I have one question. You could remove it, or I can ask a question regarding.
Probably should be removed to ask
Okay,
a
let's
question.
remove it, and that was the one about the dog. Is that on the?
That's
not on consent. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So then can I have a motion to approve all items except number 8?
Move to approve all
Second.
items except number 8.
I saw Gamma movies, so it's like, I'm gonna beat him. Sorry.
I'm sorry, who was the second?
It was Councilmember
Hernandez.
Hernandez.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Okay, so item 8 is the Ventura County Transportation Commission Safe Grant Program. And I understand that we have applied for a $31,000 grant, and we'll be getting some vital equipment, which includes a drone, a scale, and some retrofitting of a patrol truck bed. And I would like to ask if either Commander Albertson or Sergeant Bates could come up and tell us a little bit about what you have planned for this equipment. If you could come up and share that with us. While he's coming up, I want to say thank you for the good job in writing this grant. I actually spoke to one of the grant reviewers, and she pulled me aside, and she just wanted to say that Sergeant Bates, who wrote this grant, did an excellent job in writing the grant, and she said he did a really good job. It was an outstanding grant, and of course, yeah, it was awarded. So I just wanted to publicly thank you for doing a
Much
good job and
appreciated.
making
Thank
our
you.
city shine. So
Thank
can you
you.
tell us more about what the plans are for this grant?
This will be this will be equipment to outfit our newly formed commercial traffic enforcement unit. So we will be outfitting a current patrol truck that we have with equipment that we can go out and have the tools we need to enforce our commercial enforcement along our truck routes within the city. As you know, in the grant, we have over 255,000 big rigs that come in and out of our city annually. This will allow us to do a lot of checks and balances on the safety, licensing, the weights, the length requirements, and it basically comes down to traffic safety.
Okay. So will you be setting up like a location where trucks will be required to pull over and
So
be
we
weighed and
have,
checked?
there are different levels of inspections. So currently we have 3 officers that are level 2 and 3 CHP certified for commercial enforcement, myself included. This allows us to conduct traffic enforcement, traffic stops. Level 1 would be like your CHP scales. That would be more of like a checkpoint where you would be static and require vehicles without any reasonable cause or any reason at all to come into your checkpoint. We will not be doing those. Those are level 1. So we will be mobile, hence the need for the truck.
Well, thank you very much. Congratulations on the grant, and good luck with your new program.
Can I
Thank
have
you.
a motion to approve item 8?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
We will now move on to public hearings. The first public hearing will be the amendment to the development agreements for all cannabis business operating in the city and determination the project is exempt from CEQA. Madam Clerk, do we have proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Will staff please present the report?
Great. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Mayor, Council, staff, audience. This is basically, for all intents and purposes, a cleanup item, so to speak. As you recall, we've recently made, over the last year or so, several changes to our cannabis program. For instance, not including the excise taxes within the definition of gross revenues any longer, allowing consumption lounges to stay open longer, allowing dispensaries to stay open longer as well, removing background checks, et cetera. However, the City Council has also been asking for consistency with regard to the charitable contributions that each cannabis business is supposed to be providing to the city. And as well, while the businesses currently are required to pay for up to 2 audits, we've been generally just requiring 1 annual audit. So what we're proposing to do with regard to these amendments, while the ordinance and the resolution that we've already passed take care of some of these items, such as the hours of operation and whatnot, there are really 3 cleanup items that we need to look at here, and so that's what we're doing here this evening. The first is to define gross revenues clearly. Over the past 4 to 5 years, that definition's changed, and so we want to nail it down and also make sure that sales and excise taxes are excluded, as we've all agreed upon. The second would be to clean up the audit requirements and just verify that the 1 annual audit is what's required. And then add language regarding the charitable contributions to our older agreements. It's not in there at all. As well as for all 17 agreements, require that the payments be reported to the city monthly and that the contributions will directly benefit the city's residents. So that way we've got more teeth when we basically, for instance, reject ones that are, say, for the city of Oxnard as opposed to Fort Wayne-Amy. So we're proposing those amendments. And then and this applies to all 17 of them. So as if you've read these, they're all pretty straightforward. They all look the same. All of the ordinances pretty much read the same as well. However, as you are aware, we do have 3 businesses that have not been built out yet. All 3 are micro businesses. The first one was the PH Organics micro business over on the 475 West Channel Islands Boulevard. And back in October, when we reviewed their development agreement, the City Council went with staff's recommendation to give them 12 additional months to build out the project. And so at this point, because we are now bringing back the development agreements, we are recommending that 12 months start basically today and end on June 30th of next year. We've also amended their gross revenues to be, for the cultivation component only, to be reduced from 5% to 3% per our November 20th decision back at the time. This particular business does have a cultivation component, so it would be applicable there. And then we're also, for the Red Mule project, also recommending the 1-year completion date being moved out to June 30th of next year as well. However, because they do not have a cultivation component, we don't have to amend their development agreement with regard to that. And then the final one is Tradecraft, and as you will recall, we continued their hearing from October to November 20th, and the developers at that meeting basically told you that they could not afford to build out their facility per the original plans, but that they would partially build it out per what they called phase 1, which is adding an additional cultivation room. There was a big discussion on the number of lamps that they could afford to put in. A room for immature plants, and then build out the 2nd floor with regard to their dry room and their distribution packaging areas. And after a discussion with the city manager, city attorney, it was decided, well, some build out is better than no build out. So as long as they were to show good faith, we would allow them an extension. However, what wasn't decided upon was full build out of the facility at all. And so the commitment, though, was to at least build out the first phase within a year. At this point, 6 months on, 7 months on, we're not aware of any actual activity taking place to commence that build out. However, So at that point, we are recommending it at this time for a couple of reasons. One, just because we're looking at all 17 development agreements at the same time. But two, to basically hopefully put some heat under them, is to require them to build out phase one within 12 months of today, basically, which would be June 30th of next year. But however, to actually put an end date to the development agreement, we are recommending that they be given one additional year to finish build out of the rest of the facility. They're always, again, able to come to you if they can't do so, and we can renegotiate the development agreement at that time. However, upon learning about this, because all of the developers, all of the businesses have been given copies of their amended development agreements and ordinances, Tradecraft did request that because they're out of town at the time, at this time, that they be able to delay their the action on their particular agreement until this coming September when the council's back in session. And so with that, we've heard from several of the businesses. They are all in favor of the changes being made. Again, these basically do benefit them. Several others have not replied to staff, and then we have not had any objections other than, again, Tradecraft asking for that continuance. So at this point, the project is exempt from CEQA. I won't read all of that, but it is basically no expansion of use, so to speak. And then the fiscal impact, this was has restated of what we discussed back in November, which will be that there will be a small hit to the general fund from that cultivation operations being reduced from 5% to 3%, but that's only applicable to 2 businesses, and that's assuming that they begin operations right now, so we're not taking that hit at all. But if they do begin operations and this helps them to build out, then we'll see a larger increase from the rest of their operations to benefit the general fund. And then any changes to the 1% charitable contributions would not affect the general fund. That goes straight to the charities. And so with that, it's recommended that the City Council introduce for first reading by title only and waive for further reading of the ordinance entitled An Ordinance Approving and Adopting an Amendment Development Agreement under Government Code Sections 65864 and 65869.5 and Ordinance Number 796 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code relating to the operation of a cannabis facility. And this would be for all 17 of the cannabis businesses currently entitled in the city. And then to further find that the project is exempt under CEQA. And that concludes my presentation. I'm available for any questions.
Thank you, Director Stewart. Does council have any questions for staff? Go ahead.
Hi, thank you for your report. Just a couple of questions. Can you tell me when we met, I can't remember the date when we last met with Tradecraft, what was their commitment to us then?
It was that within a year, and this was back in November, they would be building out that phase 1, which again was the additional flower room, the additional immature plant room, and then build out of the second floor with regard to the distribution.
Okay, and I think you said that you've seen no progress.
Correct.
Okay, and then you mentioned something about, and forgive me, I don't remember the words. I was kind of writing some notes. You said something about they're out of town.
Correct, or out of, yes.
Yeah.
Some of them
And
are
so
out of town right now.
Is Tradecraft closed right now because they're out of town?
Well, the management team basically is who's out of town. No, their on-site manager, who probably isn't the best person to answer questions about the overall build-out, is in town and they're operational, but the owners are out of the country right now.
Okay, and so because of that, they're asking to push, instead of today being the start date, that it be pushed to September?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, and then, so what happens since it's been since November and we've seen no progress to date? What happens when we get to that year, and if we don't see any progress, what happens then? We push it back another year?
Well, tonight, we're actually asking to push it back already about 7 months. So basically restart that 12-month clock tonight. So we're already looking at that. And then, yes, within a year, we'll be coming back for the annual reviews of all these amendments, basically. So expect a long discussion because we have 17 at one time. But at that point, then we can have the discussion if there has not been good faith, basically, made.
Yeah, I remember, I just remember November, the discussion that went on and on and on, and I felt like they understood and made the commitment, right? And now we're saying they haven't, not that it's not done, but there's been no progress.
Thus far. That's not saying that there couldn't be, but at this point, we are at least giving them the benefit of the doubt to, again, push it out a few more months.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
I think I was going to add just that I think that the city's showing that we're being reasonable. We know that the conditions have changed and the market's changed and all of those things. So we are sort of trying to show that we're willing to work with everybody and we're trying to work with them. But I think to the point of the item is rather than keep saying, okay, we'll give you a due date later, I think at some point we have to give a due date. And then when we have that due date, if we need to talk more and if we see progress and we think that, we can come back and say, we know this is getting done, we just need more time, then we'll do that. We'll be reasonable, but we have to start seeing the progress at some point. So.
Director Stewart, I know at some point in time the discussion was part of the problem was because of Southern California Edison and not being able to upgrade the rooms that they need in order to do some of this business. Is that still an issue?
I would believe that, yes, it is. I'm not aware of Edison making any changes on their end to any of this.
So we don't know if there's been any movement on Southern California Edison's part as to helping to get these. I know there's several. They're not the only one who's having that issue, but
Right.
Do we have any info about that?
I don't have any new information, let's put it this way. So my assumption would be that we're in the same situation as we were last year.
Got it, okay. Any further questions from council? Seeing none, we will now open this hearing for a public hearing. The public hearing is now open for public input at 8:01 p.m. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
Thank you. Seeing none, we will close the public hearing. The public input has concluded. I will now close the public hearing, the time being 8:01. We have before us a recommendation to introduce the first reading by title only, waiving further reading of an ordinance entitled, "An Ordinance Approving and Adopting an Amendment Development Agreement" under Government Code Sections 65864 to 65869.5 and Ordinance Number 796 of the Port Hueneme Municipal Code relating to the operation of a cannabis facility for each of the 17 cannabis businesses currently entitled in the city, and to find the project is exempt from further review from CEQA. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion before we vote?
So does this motion, are we talking about the June start date versus the September? Before we take a vote?
Correct. So that may be something that you want to entertain or not. If you don't want to continue the hearing per their request, then tonight you'd be approving the June start date, yes.
I don't know the proper procedure, but I'm willing to be heard if you'd like. I'm the general counsel for Dub Brothers and Tradecraft. We've made this request that we have this continuance so that we have time to work with staff in order to come up with a agreement that we can sign off on. But I don't know the proper procedure to appear before you.
City Attorney,
Did you fill out a comment card for
I
public
didn't know I was
comment
supposed
on
to.
this?
I let staff know and Mr. Stewart know that we'd requested the continuance, and I asked for guidance on how best to appear tonight, and I told them through several emails that I was coming and that I would be here tonight.
But you did not fill out a comment card.
I did not fill out a comment card.
Then it's up to the council's discretion if it wants to. Just a minute, please.
And just for the record, I do want to clarify that we did not receive any emails from you And the only thing we received was the letter that Georgiana has from Paula. So I just want to make it clear to the city council that this is the first time that we've been made aware of his appearance this evening.
I'm happy to show you, I have my phone with me. I'm happy to show you the sent messages of 3 emails that I sent today.
I'm actually reading one correspondence from you dated June 13th, 2024. I think at this point, it would be appropriate for the council to hear from the witness, as it were, the person, for what, 3 minutes? 3 minutes.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the courtesy. So my name is David D. Jute, and I'm the general counsel for Tradecraft. Are there lawyers on the council?
No.
So I can disparage myself then. I know nothing other than what I'm told. I'm simply the mouthpiece. But from what I understand, and I was here in November, we did make a commitment to build out the growery. There's this phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 2 is very, very problematic, as we've commented to Mr. Stewart many times and to council when we were here in November. Our goal in asking for this 3 months continuance is to ideally get an amendment to the agreement where we can actually full-throatedly agree to. And our goal, rather than bring competing versions to the council, would be to work with staff to get an amendment to the agreement that we can agree to. And whatever we don't agree, perhaps then it would be appropriate to ask for council's guidance on our then version or staff's version. But as to the build-out, I'm quite sure that, committing the client, but I'm quite sure that we're prepared to go forward, and we appreciate the extra time that we have to do it. The purpose of the continuance is not to delay, but it's actually to work through in order to get an agreement with our input that we can live with. And we've got our CFO prepared to tell you about the finances and what's happened. We have financing that we've just gotten in place to build out the rooms. We do have some suggestions. I don't have them with me because we got this too quickly for me to be able to make a presentation tonight about what I think would be acceptable to the council. With that, I can reserve the rest of my time. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Are there any questions from council?
I have a question. So are you saying that you currently your agreement stands in the packet that we have now, that you're not you want us to do something different other than what we're trying to do tonight?
Yes, what I think is happening tonight, isn't it, is the first reading of Mr. Stewart and staff's recommendation on the proposal that they sent to us modifying our development agreement with the city that was part of the packet. And we said through emails, you know, wait a minute here, we've got some suggestions and we'd like some time to work with you so that we can see if we can make an agreement that we can live with. Because as council remembered, and I heard some of the statements, you were quite right in remembering that the environment of the cannabis world has cratered with the devaluation of what cannabis can sell for in a gross way, and that directly affects our profitability. We're losing, and I don't have the figures with us, but we're losing between $300,000 and $500,000 per year on this facility. And what we're trying to do is tread water with the hope that cannabis sales value increases so we can make a profit, and also that we can withstand without going out of business.
Does council have any other?
I guess I just don't, I wanted to finish. Because I don't understand, we're almost giving you 2 years, up to 2 years, potentially, right?
Correct.
Yeah, okay. So I don't see what the problem is.
I didn't hear you, that last comment? You don't think it's?
No, I don't see what the problem is, why we can't go through with this action.
I mean, it's giving
Considering
them
we're
more
giving
time.
you almost 2 years, an extension.
I did have just one question. I just want to
DeJute, D-E, capital J-U-T-E, first name David.
Mr. DeJute, you mentioned that phase 2 is complex when we were talking about the electricity SCE. So what's the status of phase 1?
Basically, again, it's at a standstill. Like I said, we have not seen any activity occur. So, and that was what we were going to give the additional 12 months to, and then phase 2 would be the
Okay.
further 12 months.
So
I hate to interrupt.
let me just ask the question
Sure.
before you answer. So you mentioned about the complexities of phase 2. What is the complexity of phase 1 if there's been no movement?
There's no complexity other than our getting financing, which we've gotten, and we know that we are not, we're still timely in having been completed. Mr. Stewart, in sending us the staff's proposal, said, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's almost an exact quote, it's problematic leaving phase 2 open-ended. When we were here last November, we were only talking about phase 1, and many of those comments got implemented, and we're grateful to that in this current proposal. But when we were talking in November, we were saying what we can do and what we can commit to do is to do phase 1. Phase 2 is problematic. We can't afford to do phase 2. Mr. Stewart now says he's uncomfortable having it open-ended, and so we have a difference of opinion. You know, we'd either like to find a way of doing phase 2, cancel phase 2, but I don't want to commit to something that I cannot do, and then come back to you and say, yeah, I know we agreed to this amendment, but yeah, it's become impossible. You know, I'd rather do that up front with full transparency than surreptitiously.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to move to a vote.
Do you have any further questions?
Yes. What's the difference between phase 1 and phase 2? Just to clarify.
And I don't have all the details, but it's basically, phase 1 has to do, we don't have to do the power upgrade. And I think it is to do 2 additional rooms, which we are prepared to do. Phase 2 has to do with increasing the, Mr. Stewart undoubtedly knows better than I do, but increasing the footprint of the place to do more indoor growery. I think we're the only ones doing groweries indoor in Port Hueneme. It's become very expensive, and there are many more dispensaries now, both here and in neighboring communities, making it even more challenging.
Councilmember Gama? Okay,
All
I'd
right.
like to move for a vote. Do you have a second?
Well,
It was seconded, Madam Clerk.
is there a first? I have one more question. So, so back in November, you had asked for more time. We gave you more time, but now you're saying that what we approved on November wasn't what you wanted?
We didn't really, there was no resolution about phase 2. What happened in November is fine with respect to phase 1. There are some details that I think we would like the chance to put input about audits, the price of audits, when they have to be audited, several other things that I can't remember right now that the CFO wanted to run by Mr. Stewart. But those go to the overall agreement. As to building out 2 rooms in phase 1, that's not a problem. When we spoke in November, there was no resolution on phase 2. We only spoke about phase 1. But now in doing this amended proposal, Mr. Stewart rightfully wants to tie up loose ends, and we don't think we addressed phase 2 at the council meeting in November, other than to say phase 1 is going to be difficult, phase 2 is impossible.
And you say you had sent emails to Mr. Stewart, but Mr. Stewart says that he hasn't received any emails. So
Someone received my emails, but I mean, I'm happy to show you my email log. I don't know why Mr. Stewart wouldn't receive them.
Madam Clerk,
Like-
do,
okay.
go ahead.
If I could ask Mr. DeJute, so phase 1, are you all willing and able to perform on phase one within 1 year from today?
Sure.
Okay. So one thought would be, and one suggestion I would have is that we can start with their particular agreement with setting phase one for 1 year from today. And then between now and the next review, Mr. Stewart and I can work with them to come back on phase two and bring back a proposal for phase two. Of course, that would be a compromise because I think it's worth considering because phase two is maybe complicated and more complex than most of the other development agreements that we're reviewing. So there'd be that option, or the recommended option in the packet, or the option of not approving it at this time, but I think that's a good compromise option of starting to set the date for phase one so that that date doesn't continue to slip into the future.
So then who had the motion?
So I have a motion by Councilmember Gama, seconded by Councilmember Martinez for staff's recommendation.
To amend your motion?
I'll amend mine. Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve city manager's recommendation.
It's approving all of them with the exception of, for Tradecraft, only approving or implementing phase one's deadline and then directing staff to come back on phase two in coming months.
Yes.
So.
I will second the amended motion.
That's not an amended motion.
That's a new motion.
He seconds that motion.
Yeah, it's a new motion first, second, and I'll do a roll call vote.
Just to be clear, I second the new motion.
Yes, perfect. Thank you. Councilmember Martinez,
Yes.
Councilmember Gama,
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McQueen-Lejeune.
Yes.
And Mayor Perez.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Can I just say I appreciate the council's courtesy and consideration.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you, City Manager, for recommending that. So the next item up is the levy and collection of the annual assessments for Assessment District Number 87-1, Assessment District Number 91-1, and Assessment District Number 95-3, and agreement with the Ventura County Auditor Controller for billing of direct assessments. Madam Clerk, do we have a proof of publication as required by law and a complete file of reports and exhibits?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Will staff please present?
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council, staff, and audience. This is the second and final step of the process for levying these assessment districts. At the June 3rd meeting, you approved and adopted the resolutions with the intent to do the collection of these assessments. It also preliminary approved the engineer's reports and set this evening for the public hearing that is required. So before you tonight is the second portion of that, which is actually ordering the levy of the collection of the assessments, approving and adopting the engineer's reports, and also authorizing the city clerk to file with the county auditor all the necessary paperwork. That's all due by July 5th of this year. We went over the costs of the various assessments last time. Those have not changed. But if you have any questions, then I will answer them.
Do we have any questions for staff or director? No? Seeing none, we'll now open the public hearing. The public hearing is now open for public input at 8:18 p.m. Are there any public comments regarding this item?
No public comments.
Thank you. Seeing no public comments, we will close the public hearing. The public hearing has concluded. I will now close the public hearing, the time being 8:19 p.m. We have before us a recommendation to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Lighting Maintenance Assessment District Number 87-1 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025, pursuant to Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972. To adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Parkway and Median Maintenance Assessment District Number 91-1 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025, pursuant to the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972, to adopt a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Hueneme, California, ordering the levy and collection of assessments within the Port Hueneme Drainage Maintenance Assessment District number 95-3 for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2024, and ending June 30th, 2025, pursuant to the Landscape and Lighting Act of 1972, and to authorize the city manager to execute the agreement. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Thank you. No further discussion. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Martinez?
Yes.
Councilmember Gama?
Yes.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem McQueen LaJean?
Yes.
And Mayor Perez?
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. That was a mouthful. We'll move on to business items.
Miro.
The first business item up is the approval of the mural design. Director Stewart, are you presenting the report? Thank you.
All right. Thank you again, Madam Mayor and members of the council, staff, audience. So hopefully this is a little bit more exciting than the last item, but this is a discussion wherein the mural committee is requesting that the city council review and authorize the committee to move forward with the actual installation of the mural. So just a quick history for everybody. Back in 2021, the city council created what we call the Monument and Mural Community Benefit Fund project. And then subsequent to that, the mural and the monument were separated into two different projects. In 2023, the city council authorized the city to enter into an agreement, and this was after an RFP process, with the Oxnard Performing Arts Center, or OPAC, to guide the mural project. And since then, the committee has been meeting regularly to discuss the actual production of the mural itself on the exterior walls of our local Ray D. Pruder Library. And so just by way of introduction this evening, most of us are here. The committee consists of council members Hernandez and Martinez, OPAC members Carolyn Mullen, Denise Sindelar, and Rafael, I'm probably going to murder your name, but Perea de la Cabada. Our county librarian, Nancy Schramm, she's in a meeting this evening, so she's going to try to zoom in, as well as Ned Branch from the county library. We have our city librarian, Tim Fergal, here this evening, and plus myself on the committee. So that's all of us, and like I said, we've been meeting regularly about this project for several months now. So to initiate...
Didn't we, council members, appoint members of the committee as well?
Getting to that.
Okay, because I thought.
Yes, that's coming right up. So to initiate the process, subcommittee was formed, and that subcommittee consisted of appointees from each one of the 5 council members, as well as from the county library and the port and the Ventura County's arts and culture manager. And so the purpose of this committee, they met virtually, was to review all of the initial proposals that came in. We got 38 of them, which is quite a few. We were really surprised. And so the committee did a great job reviewing all of those proposals, and they narrowed them down to 9 semifinalists. And so those 9 semifinalists were then presented back to the mural committee that I just mentioned, introduced you to. And we reviewed all of those and chose the top 3. And it was not unanimous amongst us. There was quite a bit of a discussion, and we almost came up with 4, but we got it down to 3. And then we invited those 3 top finalist teams to come back to the city and, well, to come to the city and tour it, as well as the site itself, and to provide the committee a draft mural design for further consideration. What the subcommittee was looking at was basically just works by each of the submitting teams, but not specific designs for our mural. So back on May 22nd of this year, the committee met with each of the 3 artist finalist teams, and this was to review their actual proposed designs as well as their public engagement concepts, because that was going to be an important component of the project. And after hearing from these 3 teams, the committee unanimously this time, it was pretty easy actually, I think, selected a proposal by the team of Renee Fox and David Russell, aka the Mobile Mural Lab. And why we chose them, well, there were several reasons, really. First was just, and I'll show you the graphic in a minute here, but the overall graphic presentation, such as the colors, the style, how it appeared on the building, or would appear on the building, I should say, since it's not there yet, as well as the message the artist wanted to basically present with regard to Hueneme and our past, present, and future in a cohesive design. We also felt that their public outreach program was the best of the three. It includes ongoing educational programs, community involvement, reaching out to the local Chumash tribe to make sure that their input is properly portrayed in the mural itself. And they're also wanting to establish an internship with the local student, and I know that was a discussion point earlier on in the process, to have them assist with the actual mural production and perhaps move on to future projects here in the city. So this is a graphic that they proposed. This was their first draft. And basically what it portrays, it takes up 3 walls on the library. The primary wall, do we have a little pointer here? Yes, we sort of do. Primary wall here, which is facing the library's parking lot, consists of wave elements that are meant to basically work with the architecture of the building itself. There's a blue heron. There's a Chumash boat, a tamal. And we have a couple of butterflies here, and it does wrap around the front of the building and then wraps over to this portion of the side of the building. There are also several verbal graphics with regard to Chumash sayings here on the proposal. And this is a close-up of the primary part with the 2 walls, and you see again the heron. Also, this little, if I can get it here, this little purple thing is supposed to represent the current equipment and cranes out at the port to draw in our present, basically. And so again, the listening to the artist and whatnot, the committee was excited to hear this and see this presentation. The other 2 presentations, one we felt, for lack of a better term, was a little bit immature for the project, and the other one was just, it was very vivid. It looked basically like a full library bookshelf, and it was very unique, but we just felt that this particular design was the most representative for the city. Now, that said, the committee doesn't think that this is perfect, and there will be a little bit further outreach as well, again, meetings with the Chumash. So this design has not been nailed down completely, but it's, for all intents and purposes, it's pretty much there. What we've recommended that they do, for instance, we've got some lemon blossoms here, and the artist said that that was basically to represent produce from the county leaving the port, but we don't have a whole lot of lemon groves here in the city, and so the committee felt that, well, why don't we use instead some native plant species that are indicative for our local Hueneme Beach area. So we made that suggestion to them. Also, Tim had asked for additional waves to be put around the boat to make it look a little bit more water going. And then we also felt one of the other proposals actually showed, if I can get this thing working, their mural proposal coming all the way out here, and so we thought that it would be good to get additional waves put out here, and maybe a couple of snowy plovers, which would, 1, represent our snowy plover, but also 2, it gives that physical separation between the plover and the heron, which is a predator of the plover, but that way at least we still get them both on there. So, and it also ties in the last really visible wall of the library. So at this point, those suggestions have been brought back to the artist. And so right now, project is on schedule. Currently, we are working on an agreement with the artists, and we meaning OPAC. Sometime during this summer, the artists are going to conduct their public engagement. They're also going to hire the intern and finalize the design based on the input. Again, there'll be final tweakings. That won't be a wholesale change to what you're seeing here this evening. They plan to actually do the installation in the early fall, probably around September. And then there'll be a public unveiling along with what wasn't intended to be done at the time, but now it is, thanks to the great flood, the library's reopening. And so that'll occur sometime in October or November. So that's when we plan on having the mural unveiled to the public. So at this point, just the semantics, there's no impact in the general fund. This is being funded strictly through the joint City Port Community Benefit Fund. And again, our recommendation is to ensure the project stays on schedule and ask the City Council to approve this draft design and authorize the committee to move forward with coordinating completion. But before I ask if there are any questions, I'd like to introduce Carolyn and Denise from OPAC to say a few words about the project and fill in anything I may have missed. Tim from the library is also going to come up, and I believe we have Tracy Gallagher from the County Supervisor's Office here. Hi, Tracy. To also come and join us. And I do see that we do have Nancy also online with us, our county librarian. So Carolyn, Denise?
Just thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been such a joyous pleasure to create this committee and foster this process. And I think this is the beginning of hopefully a very long road of public art and arts activation in your city. And thank you for allowing OPAC to be involved in this. I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think Director Stewart did a phenomenal job. So, Denise?
I'm serving as the project manager on this project, so it's been a great honor to be part of this project. I worked for the City of Ventura for very many years managing their public art program, and I think this is a great project to kind of kick off and to introduce the City of Port Hueneme to the broader region and your embracing of public art and creating a creative, cultural legacy for your residents. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, did you want to come up next?
Does council have any questions for staff?
Real quick, so hopefully introduce, let Tim real quick speak, as well as the representative from Supervisor Lopez's office.
Good evening, everyone. I'll make this brief and then turn it over to Nancy. Again, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for thinking of us. Great public art brings a community together the way that a library can also bring a community together. So we're very grateful for the opportunity and really appreciate the city's partnership. So Nancy, was there anything you'd like to add?
Hi, good evening, everybody. Is it okay if I speak now?
Of course.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. So I am Nancy Schramm. I'm the library director for the Ventura County Library. And I just wanted to say on behalf of all of us here at the Ventura County Library, how pleased we are to partner with the City of Port Hueneme on the exterior mural at the Ray D. Pruder Library. And we're just so proud to host what we think will be an inspiring piece of artwork for the community. We are a community institution that aims to inspire our community members to explore and discover and connect. And this mural will play a key role in helping us to achieve that goal. We do support the chosen design and we congratulate the talented artists. Like so many of the book cover illustrations found on the shelves of the library, this mural artistically and beautifully illustrates a story. This one about Port Hueneme and the inspiration that can be found within the walls of the local library. I do want to thank the city for making this project possible. Also, thank you to Council Members Hernandez and Martinez for their work on the mural committee. This mural is a wonderful example of how we can do more for the community through collaboration and the ongoing partnership between the County of Ventura and the City of Port Hueneme. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Now does council have any questions?
One more, finally one more. If we could allow Ms. Gallagher from Supervisor Lopez's office to speak.
Good evening, Mayor Perez and Mayor Pro Tem, council members, Mr. City Manager, members of the public. I have some comments prepared by the supervisor that I would like to share on her behalf. Honorable Mayor and council members, as the county supervisor representing the 5th District of the County of Ventura, home to the Ray D. Pruder Library, I extend my heartfelt thanks to the City of Port Hueneme for making this mural project possible. Your recognition of the value of art in public spaces and its ability to inspire learning and curiosity is greatly appreciated, and I enthusiastically offer my support for this project. The chosen design for the mural at the Ray D. Pruder Library captures the natural beauty of our cherished coastline, beloved by all Ventura County residents. When thoughtfully planned, projects such as these reflect the unique history, culture, and values of the community in which they are located. I am also grateful for the opportunity to support local artists by providing them with a project that will leave a legacy for future generations to appreciate. I'd like to extend a special thanks to the Mural Committee for their dedication and efforts to the project. And I share in the sentiments of our County Library Director, Nancy Schramm, in stating that this mural is a wonderful example of what can be achieved through collaboration and ongoing partnership between the County of Ventura and the City of Port Hueneme. I look forward to seeing the completed mural and to partnering with the City of Port Hueneme on future projects that will benefit both residents and visitors of Ventura County. Thank you for your time and consideration. Sincerely, Vianney Lopez.
Any further comments or people? Okay. Does council have any questions? Councilmember Gama?
I have comments and I'd like to provide some input. I think it's a very good start, but the lemon, I don't get the lemon. And I would like to see ocean, island in place of the lemon and the lemon blossoms. But I think the concept is beautiful. The rolling waves are beautiful. But again, my ask is to incorporate what makes the City of Port Hueneme the City of Port Hueneme, and it's the ocean. And so I think it's the butterfly, beautiful. But again, I just think it needs a little more ocean, maybe an island, nautical, to really bring out the City of Port Hueneme. But I think it's a great start. And I'll just, and then I would even go as far as to mention California poppies as a substitute for the star.
So I don't have any questions, but I do have comments. Now, I 100% support everything about the mural project, and I believe the artists are very talented. That's a beautiful thing that they've showed us. But for a community member to walk by and look at this, it needs a lot of interpretation. When I first looked at this without reading what the concept was from the artists and why they are doing what they're doing, why they put the herring there or the waves there, I wouldn't have known that this had any real connection to Hueneme, to be honest with you. And that, I thought, was the basis of the mural, was to bring the history of Hueneme out in art for the community members to enjoy. And it's a lovely picture, but it leaves a lot of interpretation for Hueneme, in my opinion. And without a breakdown next to it, I don't know that the average community member is going to get that this is the history of Hueneme. And I think that is what should be important to a mural, is the people that walk by with their children, going to the park, going to the library, is they're going to understand when they see this is the history of Hueneme, and then they understand that when they're looking at it, without having to read something to tell them this is what the butterfly means for Hueneme, and so on. So that's the only issue I had with it, is that it leaves a lot of interpretation for people to understand. Of course.
Mayor, I think that's the beauty of the art, is for people to see it and try to, and then learn about it. Because I don't think, myself, I've been on council less than 2 years. I didn't know anything about Tomolo, the boat, until I went to a museum in Santa Paula, right? And so I think the beauty of art is not to know exactly what the art is. it's about finding what it is. I think that's the beauty of art. I love it. And I when I saw it, I said, oh, this is wonderful. And then I started saying, okay, what, like you said, what are these pieces, right? And then I read the artist, the explanation, and I was like, oh, wow. And it made it look better to me because then I knew that.
Yeah.
And so I really love it. I love it. So I think you all did a good job. I'm with Council Gama, and I think, Mr. Stewart, you already talked about the lemon being replaced with some native plants or something else. So that's really nice. I do like the fact that it was expanded to carry over to those other walls and even across the doors. And so I think it would be nice to have, like you said, to have something else on that side to kind of complete it. But I like it. So that's just my brain, my personal brain.
Yeah, and I don't know if the rest of the committee agrees, but there was another artist that let's just say painted or rendered a painting like the one that you described, where like it tells the history, but we just felt like it was just too much. And then this allows for a little bit more imagination, let's just say. So I mean, I like it too. There are some changes that we had suggested, like the snowy plover. The librarian, Tim Frugo, suggested more waves for the ocean. So there are some ideas that we've added that aren't being shown in this picture, just so you know.
Thank you, Mayor. First of all, I want to thank the committee for the fabulous journey that we've been on to bring the mural to where it is today. And I want to thank this council for appointing representatives to participate in the process. I want to thank Beverly Kelly, who helped with the historical aspect, and the library for their participation as well. It's been almost close to a 3-year journey just to get to where we are now. And I encourage the council members, if you haven't done so already, to read the artist description of the mural, because for me, the idea is to draw a person's curiosity. And if you haven't read the staff report, I encourage you to read the public outreach internship proposal, which talks about how the mural will have an educational website, including a QR code embedded into the mural to allow users to interpret the mural and educate viewers, thereby encouraging viewers to look into the mural further and even read about it. Wow, what a concept. It's a library. You know, this is encourage them to read. And also to provide access to documents within the library, such as interactive worksheets, coloring pages that directly correspond with a mural designed to engage local youth with a mural. And then the idea of the internship, I think, are all ways that not only engage the community, but encourage people to learn more about what its meaning is and the whole idea behind the art, the beauty of the art, and talk about it. So I think it's going to serve its exact purpose and to generate that sense of community among those who see it. So thank you again. OPAC, we've got a great partnership. I hope we can work together again in the future. I think we have a couple of more projects, actually, that we have to complete. So thank you so much, and thank you, Tim and Tony.
Thank you.
And Councilman Martinez.
I no doubt agree with a lot that has been said here. And again, but I just want to emphasize the point that, the ocean, I think the Tommel needs to have ocean underneath it. I mean, this is Hueneme. And when it launched out in the ocean, it would be on a clear day with no fog, and the island would be visible. So I just feel strongly that those two items are missing, and I think they would go great where the lemon is, and there's could make some adjustments. But I think it's a great start. But again, for me, I would just like to see us incorporate the island, the ocean, and a little more definition on the port, because obviously the port is if you didn't tell me that was a crane, I would have never figured it out. So I hope that we could take this collaborative from us council members and maybe make some tweaks so that we could all, I love it, I like it. Again, the points that I think are missing are the ocean, the nautical, the island, Port of Hueneme, resting place, launching spot. That was to launch out to the islands for the coastal business of the Chumash, so.
Okay.
So I imagine there's going to be some kind of graffiti resistant something. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm probably turn that over to OPAC, but yes, there will be a graffiti coating put on that to hopefully allow us to wipe off any graffiti as opposed to having to have the mural touched up or whatnot. Now, if we do have to touch up the mural, though, we'll work with the artists on that to get their approval to do so and whatnot, just per standard protocol.
Where there'll be an opportunity for us to see the little tweaks that are being discussed to be included in that?
I'm assuming yes.
I think that's sort of the question for the council at this point. I think when we brought this initially, the recommendation was basically to give us the sort of the final approval to just now do everything we need to do to implement it. But the council has the option to say, well, we want to see the design, like the final design before we do give the final approval. So that's the choice of the council at this point.
So I think some of the changes that have been discussed, I think they would help, like the snowy plover being added. That would add more Hueneme touch and little things, taking away the lemon and whatever was added. I think that would be a good concept to see before it goes to final one more time. So do we have any public comments regarding this item?
We do. It's a written comment. I was surprised to see the artwork for the library mural was being reviewed in this city council meeting. I'm a member of the muralist panel, yet I wasn't aware that murals were presented and were up for approval. The process called for 3 artists to supply concepts that would be reviewed, and then an artist team would be approved. It's possible this process was overlooked or that panelists were not included in this process. I saw the artwork that is being proposed for the library for the first time in the city council agenda. I am pleased to see the direction that the mural that is being proposed is taking. The blue heron was not what I had originally envisioned, but I have to say I was pleasantly surprised and impressed with the concept. I like how the mural uses the architecture of the building to complement the mural design, utilizing the negative space. I also like how the artwork spanned the 2 sections of the building. My suggestions are to include imagery that pays tribute to the Navy and imagery of the Channel Islands. Maybe a silhouette of the islands in the background as a watermark similar to the Chumash cave paintings that are incorporated, possibly including sea life. The mural concept is beautiful, and with some Navy and nautical elements, I believe Port Hueneme would be well represented. Well done. I look forward to seeing this mural being painted. Thanks, Ricardo Holden, mural panelist. And that concludes public comment.
Okay.
Mayor, may I just mention? I think we should have probably reached out to the panelists. I feel bad that we didn't. If I was in your shoes, I would want to see what it looks like before it gets put on. I would just, but me being on in the end, I would say you should trust. You can trust us. But I'm just saying that if I was in your shoes, I would also want to see what it's gonna look like. But
I don't think we bypassed the panelists. I don't think we did, so.
So, if I may, somebody mentioned to me that the butterfly on the left looked like it's flying into the building, and whereas the one to the right looks like it's flying out of the building. So I think maybe that's a tweak that could be made as well. But could I make a motion that after hearing all of our input, that you make adjustments and come back so that we could all approve it in one and then know what we're approving?
Are you talking about making a motion, or did you make a motion? Because I have a comment that I'd like to make before you make a motion.
Sure, I'd like to make a motion that we ask the committee, or anyways, we ask that they consider the comments that have been made, give us a final rendering so that we could all approve it and know what we're going to get. So that is a motion.
I second.
You have a comment?
Yes, I do want to make a comment. So I've already kind of shared what my feeling is about the mural. I do think that there are some options to make some adjustments. I would like to see what something is before it's on the wall, and you can't do anything about that. But I also want to say thank you to the committee, subcommittee, if there was a subcommittee, all those who submitted proposals. And I do want to say that based on the report, that this, out of the three, this one was unanimously voted on, and that each of us on the council picked someone to be on the committee, and we have to give at least some level of trust to the people that we chose to make the decision. So yes, let's look at the final rendering, or close to being the final rendering. But I do want to thank everyone and let the folks, at least the person that I picked, that I trust him, just like you all trust the folks that you picked, that voting this art unanimously says a lot about everyone that we picked to be on the committee to make the decision for us. So, thank you.
Okay. I think we have a vote on the table.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you so much.
Can I just make sure that we have everything we need? So did we need any other approval at this time for? Does the artist need like a contract before they make these revisions, or do they already have a contract? I'm not sure if we have everything we need for them to move forward with it.
I'll refer that to Carolyn or Denise. I do want to point out that this probably, just talking to Denise briefly, this probably will push out the overall completion of the project, though. Just keep that in mind, because the artists are going to have to revise their work at this point. So, Carolyn or Denise, do you have an answer with regard to the contract?
So we're working on the draft contract now, and it's been in review with county legal staff as well as the city of Port Hueneme. There will be a memorandum of understanding between the three bodies, the county library, the city of Port Hueneme, and the artists. And then there will be a separate contract under which OPAC will be commissioning the artists to actually do the mural. With a timeline that we've established, and I'm not sure when you're back from your break, so I guess my question to you all is, when will you be back in session so that we can time the return with that final rendering for your approval?
So we can get this on either of the July meetings, so before we go to break.
Okay.
If the artist is able to, work that
Oh,
quickly.
perfect. Then that should be, we'll communicate all of these comments to the artist team tomorrow and give them the direction that they need. We'll be executing a contract hopefully this week that will allow them to move forward on the revised designs. And then if you'll keep us posted on the timeline, I'm sure they'll be able to make the revisions.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, nothing further. We will move on to the next item, which is to authorize to purchase a search-only, non-apprehension police canine. Commander Albertson is presenting the report.
Yeah, people may notice I wasn't doing introductions today because I figure this is going to be a long meeting, and the last thing we need is me talking a bunch on top of it. But I'll give the introduction on this one to Commander Albertson, who's going to provide some background on the item. So.
Doesn't sound like it.
There it is.
Thank you.
Come on.
Good evening again, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, members of City Council, members of staff. So the item I'm bringing for you tonight is authorization to purchase a search-only, non-apprehension police canine and any related items with an estimated cost of approximately $25,000 to $30,000 using identified funds as indicated in the fiscal impact. Currently, the police department has no police canines. The department has previously had a long history of having canines. We were the first agency in Ventura County to have a canine program. We were one of the first departments in the state to have a canine program. At one point in time, we actually had 5 working canines. This canine would be an explosive and firearms detection canine. Will not be used for apprehending suspects, will not be used for bite work or any of those types of activities. We have spoken to the port and to the Navy base, and there is a need for us to have a canine. Currently at the port, if they need a canine that could detect explosives, they have to bring one from Long Beach, and that's if one is available. Same with the Navy base. They do have explosive and firearm canines available. Some of that is depending on where they would be coming from. So it would definitely be an asset to the port and the Navy base for us to have firearms and explosive detecting canine. The funding for the training has already been budgeted. So the only thing we would really be coming forward to ask is funding for the actual purchase of the dog itself, as well as any related equipment. And the funds for the purchase in the amount not to exceed $30,000 are available from salary savings within the department's fiscal 24-25 adopted budget. Estimated salary savings are from the one unfilled police officer position that we have. We are currently recruiting, but we don't anticipate that that position will be filled before October of this year. And with that, I'll open it up to any questions.
If I could just add 2 quick points. And one is what Commander Albertson just said. We do want to make sure it's clear and people understand that we aren't pausing any recruitments to have the vacancy savings for this. It's just that we know we have vacancy savings because the current recruitment will take several months. And so we just want people to know we're not holding off on other priority items that we need for this. It's reallocating those resources that we won't otherwise use. And then second, we were focused on this year's budget because this year's budget is so tight. And so we showed how we would fund the canine in this year's budget using those vacancy savings. But on an ongoing basis, we do anticipate the regular expenses for the canine program will total about $10,000 a year. And so that's something that we didn't want to not disclose and have that be a surprise, but we missed it in the report. But it would be in future years essentially a $10,000 impact. And the only other expense that could potentially happen is that if we ended up buying a new vehicle that could be used for the canine, then that would be possible. But we aren't planning to buy a new vehicle at this point. And I think our thought is if a grant comes along that would fund that, then we'd bring that grant to council. So it's something that we'd hope we'd look at doing if some grant funding became available. And so at this point, the big expense is purchasing the canine and some related items this year. We've identified that in the budget, and then ongoing costs of about $10,000 is what we expect.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for staff? Councilmember Gama?
How does the canine get named? That's big question. I have a couple names in mind. And secondly, does the canine get a special dwelling unit, and who gets to take them home and take care of the dog?
Those are good questions. So from my experience, from what I understand with our previous canines, is they're named when we purchase them. But I do know of some departments that actually purchase their dogs and then name their canines. So I don't know which method we would use. And yes, so the canine would live with the handler, and the handler would be required to have a kennel at their house and would be required to care for the canine off duty.
I was really surprised because I do recall over the years always seeing canines. But we had 5 of them?
At one point in time, we had 5, yes.
Wow.
The most recent one recently passed.
Oh. Okay, that's it. But I think tool for both the Navy and the port, and I commend you guys for going in that direction.
What's wrong with your mic? It keeps cutting out. Shaky. Councilmember Hernandez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commander Albertson, for your report and bringing this program to us, because we're not just asking for a dog here, we're asking to reinstitute a canine program, from what I understand, right?
Yes,
yes.
although technically
Yes.
the program is still implemented. It was never actually ended, but
Well, we haven't had canines in years,
But
so.
it's bringing back the first canine.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. So I'm wondering, what are the number of incidents that the police department has experienced where you need a canine for firearms. I mean, I'm concerned about the report not being, not fully justifying the need for a canine. So can you help me understand how often we come across this kind of incident where we need a canine?
Yeah, so in 2023, we had 69 firearms that were booked into our property and evidence room. 37 of those were seized related to crimes or firearm prohibitions, meaning that the people that had the firearm were prohibited from owning them, possessing them, or we issued a gun violence restraining order and had to seize those weapons, or they were taken during like a domestic violence incident. A good example, I could sit here and then recite, yeah, there were 37 incidents, but I just finished an evaluation for one of my sergeants a couple weeks ago, and one of the calls that he was evaluated on was a shooting we had at the beach, and the suspect ran and threw the gun somewhere along the route where he ran, and he made it quite a distance. And it took an entire shift, quite a while to locate that gun, whereas if we had a dog that could detect a firearm, we might have found it very quickly. And so one incident where we miss a gun where some kid picks it up is, to me, justifies having the dog.
Sure. And why wouldn't mutual aid or automatic aid, calling Oxnard PD or the Sheriff's Department, be a reasonable option rather than purchasing a dog? Couldn't you just call for mutual aid by one of I've seen us do that before.
We
bringing
have.
dogs from other agencies.
We have. I will say that there are times that we have requested dogs when they weren't available because they are handling calls or they're off duty or they're at training. I don't know offhand how many dogs in the county are firearms trained. Typically, a dog will fall into several categories: a narcotics detection dog, a explosive firearms detection dog, like a bloodhound, a tracking dog, or a apprehension dog, patrol dog.
So I understand that there's a lot of dogs now who aren't trained for cannabis, right? They're trained maybe for opioids and fentanyl and stuff like that. But this dog is not going to be a drug-sniffing dog, correct?
My understanding is our intention is to have this dog be explosives, firearms canine.
Okay. Well, my concern there is the cannabis businesses. I hope that they don't perceive this as a marijuana sniffing dog. I know that those are far and few between now. They don't train them that way because the marijuana is so prevalent. But I'm just hoping that we can assure our cannabis businesses that that's not what we're doing.
Yeah, part of us, like the city manager had mentioned, the canine program was never really suspended or ended. We still have a standing canine policy, and we just didn't have a canine. So part of rolling it back out will be the public education on what the dog is and what it does and what it'll be used for.
Let's see if I have any. So and the retrofit of a vehicle, I think that's included in the cost, the $30,000, because you need to retrofit vehicles for the dog.
Yeah, so
that's included.
So
in
we
the
currently have
$30,000?
a vehicle that was a canine vehicle, then it was reallocated to general use, to training, property and evidence, a backup patrol unit. That will be potentially retrofitted back to being a canine unit, which really will only consist of removing the back seat.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I'm not familiar at all with the police canines, and I read the report, and quite a few times it's mentioned non-apprehension dog. But, so are you saying there will be at no time will a dog, this canine, come in contact with someone, smell a gun, whatever, and want to attack, or that won't?
This will be a detection dog. It's not a dog that's going to be trained to bite. It's not going to be a dog that's trained to apprehend suspects. So it'll strictly be for detection. Very similar when you go to LAX and they're walking around with the dog smelling your luggage. That's basically what it is.
Got it. All right, thank you.
Any further questions from council?
No.
All right, sounds good.
I make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Do we
Second?
have any public comments on this item?
Oh.
No public comments.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay.
I have
So-
a comment. I just wanted to say that, you know, we've been, over the last 6 months, been told that we really need to tighten our belts, that we, you know, we were in the midst of a structural budget deficit, and now that's been repaired. And so here we are buying a dog, and it just seems to me, while other departments are taking cuts, I think we need to be sensitive to that and continue to watch our spending. I'm not opposed to the canine, but it just, I think we need to, we just need to watch our spending, because it just doesn't seem right that we continue to spend when we've been told to watch our spending, even something like $30,000. I mean, it all adds up. So
I would like to
make that
add,
comment.
I'd like to add a comment if I may. So I recall a gun was recovered from a trash can at Miranda Park, and that was great. And any chance to recover firearms throughout our community is great. And I think this is money well spent. And the fact, I learned something tonight, 69 weapons checked in. So having a asset that could detect firearms really takes away the chance of missing it. And so for that, this money is probably the best money we'll spend this year.
I'll also make a comment that the importance this will play in towards port and Navy security. I know that they would like to have this. They've made comments that this will be a benefit to them. So I know it'll be a great support for our community partnership with the port and the Navy. So, Madam Clerk?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Commander, for your report. So we're now moving on to the usage data for open play at Boys and Girls Club, 3-point basketball contest, and basketball league costs, resources, and considerations. This is Deputy City Manager Charles Peretz.
Good evening. Consistent with the city manager's earlier comment, no introduction necessary. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, council members, members of the audience, so fellow city staff members. Item 19 is presented in response to the council's request for data regarding the number of people that have participated in city programming offered at the Boys and Girls Club. As part of the council's request, staff was asked to provide information about the costs and resources necessary to run a basketball league, and then subsequently that information regarding a 3-point community contest. So the city began offering open play for basketball on Tuesdays and Saturdays beginning in the middle of September last year. Saturday play has averaged about 10 participants each day and has seen a single day highest attendance of 29 people, which is shown there in April of this year. Similarly, the Tuesday play has seen an average of 17 participants over its time, with a single highest day participant of 35. And we had that on 2 different days, on Tuesdays. And between January 9th and March 7th, we opened the Thursday nights at the Boys and Girls Club for pickleball activity. And we saw an average of 11 people with a single highest day attendance of 19 for that activity. I think this was referenced at the last council meeting, but we wanted to provide the council with a little bit of information about the facilities renovation plans that we've heard from our colleagues over at the Boys and Girls Club. So we've been advised that renovations will begin in sometime in the middle of August, with a targeted completion date of the end of January. The renovation, of course, will impact the city and others' access to the facility and our ability to hold regular programming. Details about the costs and resources needed to run a basketball league were included in the staff report. However, based on the planned facility renovation, Staff is not recommending that we discuss that in further detail at this time, but rather wait until the construction project is complete. And then the last meeting, there was a mention about a three-point contest, and we've put together a proposed plan should the council be interested in trying that direction to move forward. The event could be held at the gym on Saturday, August 3rd of this year. If we were to hold the competition, we would have 5 shooting locations, each with 5 basketballs. The way it would work is the first 4 would be worth 1 point. We'd have a different colored ball called the money ball that would be worth 2 points at the end of each shooting location rack. Participants would be given 60 seconds per round. Each person would have 2 rounds to shoot, and the total score from both rounds would be used to determine the winner. We would plan to have an event DJ to provide live music during the event, and also to provide some fun commentary about the day's activities. The event would be supported by city staff members, volunteers, and we would look to non-shooting participants to help shag balls and keep the event moving along. We anticipate that the event would be held for a cost not to exceed $2,000. And because of the facility renovations and anticipated savings on facility rentals due to our inability to have all of the days and times that we have been used to, we are not requesting any additional appropriations and feel as though the savings from the facility rental would be able to pay for the cost of this event. That concludes the staff presentation, and we're available for any questions the council has.
Thank you. Does council have any questions?
I have a question. Can you refresh my memory on how this got on to the agenda? Did we, I'm not familiar with, yeah, I know you're behind it, but I don't, was there a motion to approve it? I'm asking staff, please.
Yes, I think I put in the report, there was a request and the council approved a motion to receive information about the data usage and information about the basketball league. And then at the last meeting, there was a brief discussion about that, and there was an additional request for information about a three-point contest.
Okay, I didn't remember the league part. I did remember the three-point contest part. Okay. So the total cost not to exceed $2,000, does that include staff time in planning and implementing?
It does.
Okay. That's not a lot of staff time. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I think I read that because of the renovations and the closing of the gym and the savings from the regular Boys and Girls Club or basketball, anyway, you know what I mean, that the 2,000 would not be an increase. It would be taken out of what would not be spent because of the renovation. Okay.
That's correct. We are not asking for any additional appropriations and believe the savings from the reduced amount of facility rentals would be able to pay for the cost of the event.
Right, and since there's 3 items on this one agenda item, I'll go ahead and reference the your recommendation for the basketball league. And so I'm in agreement with not moving forward with the league. That's a lot of work. That requires, I think you said in here, 8 teams, and if it's 8 teams, that's at least 5 people, I would imagine, if you're talking about basketball, right? So that's 40 people on a regular basis, on a 10-week period, and I think that's going to take a little more time to consider than just saying yes right now. Thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments on this item?
No public comments.
Thank you. So the recommendation is to receive information pertaining to the usage of the Boys and Girls Club for the city's open basketball play program, consider whether to approve all 3 basketball shooting contests as identified in the staff report and/or modifications, and receive information related to resources, costs, and other considerations associated with the creation of a basketball league. May I have a motion and a second?
I'm making a motion to approve all 3 recommendations to the City Council.
I'll second.
No further discussion needed?
Yes, following the motion, is there any, did I read in here, I don't recall reading, what cost that you all might have put to having a league?
Well, and if I can quickly, so the motion to accept 3 recommendations we didn't recommend starting a league at this point, so the motion is not to start a league at this point. And so I think the only real change, or the only thing being approved by that motion, as I understood it, would be, it would give us the direction to hold a 3-point contest on Saturday, August 3rd. So
And then if-
Bobby
if-
could tell me,
if
or
I
Councilmember
may-
Martinez
But you were
could tell me if
still
I'm
asking about the
wrong.
cause.
Yeah.
If I may, so Tuesdays, as you saw, there's a couple times where there was 39 basketball players.
Mhm.
If you show up, there's a chance you might not play. And so what the players started doing is changing the instead of going up to 15 points, make it 7 points. Every shot counts as one, no 3-pointers, everything just one. And so that kept them moving a little bit faster. But even then, it's still too many basketball players on one court for 2 hours. But on Saturdays, it's almost like there's too many hours. And so sometimes players would show up early, some in the a little bit later. And so there was like different groups. But for Tuesdays, everybody knows like, hey, there's just 2 hours, so show up in those 2 hours. So that's why Tuesdays are more popular than the Saturdays. But as you saw the chart, sometimes there'd be a lot of people, sometimes not as many. The least amount was like 12, 15. That's still enough to run full court games. But the idea behind the reason I brought up a league was because not only was I going to Camarillo to participate at a basketball league, but I think there's a need here in our area for people that would want to play. And the way that Camarillo was running it is that they didn't actually have any staff on the actual, while the tournaments were going, the games were going, it was volunteers. And the main thing is that they had to just make sure that they paid the referees. And so the teams were paying for the referees, and it was almost like the referees were running the league and in conjunction with the volunteers. So whoever's in charge of the scoreboard, they were the ones that were running the games. So that's why I brought up earlier in the year. I brought up the idea of, let's at least talk about a league. I know that the Boys and Girls Club is going to have a new gym, and so I thought it would be a good idea, like, to segue from a new gym and then starting a league. I know we're not approving a league right now, but that's the reason why I had brought it up. And it's just because Tuesdays, super packed, 39 players, that's too many people on one court when only 10 players can play. And if you lose, you're not gonna get a chance to play. So you just came to play one game and then you're out. So I thought it'd be easier if we did have set times that people can show up and play, and then it would be more efficient. That's the idea behind it.
Yeah, thank you for that. The other comment is, when you have 17 people, 35 people, 29 people, 10 people, that's great. But when you have a team, the expectation is the identified people will be there. And so I just don't get that from here. You know what I mean? So if 17 people come out, 17 people might be 17 people on 4 different teams. You still don't have enough to play a game, right? Because they're not on the same team. So I think we just need to think a little deeper about the league thing, because that is a commitment for 10 weeks, I'm hearing. And I don't know if getting the numbers that we have is a big enough commitment to have a league. And so that's just my comment.
But we have a few months before we can discuss that further, since we don't even have a gym.
May I make a comment, please? I just love the talk of this of getting our residents involved in wellness and gamemanship and all that. And I recall when I first moved in and around Miranda Park, I mean, there is softball games just about every night there. And I really enjoyed hearing the sound of people having a good time. The courts that are outside of Miranda Park, constantly being used. On Saturdays, there's big games going on, a lot of enthusiasm. So I know and unfortunately I can't play basketball. Even if I could, I'm terrible. But there's a lot of interest, and I think, when people become aware that, I think it's valuable. And there's a lot of basketball being played at Miranda Park, regardless of what's going on down at the Boys and Girls Club. So I think it's a great idea to try and keep people engaged in positive wellness activities.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. The final presentation or business item we have tonight is the Regional Defense Partnerships budget request for fiscal year 2024-25.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And I'll keep it very brief. The Regional Defense Partnership, in years past, their annual budget request to the city was about $5,000 for literally decades. I think it was about 20 years that it was about $5,000. And they have notified us starting this year that they have recognized that that's not sustainable for RDP at this point anymore. And they've asked for an increase of all of the agencies. And so they calculate the dues for each agency by a calculation based on the percentage of employees at the base, civilian employees at the base, whose W-2s are identified as belonging in your city. So it's essentially based on how many base employees you have in your city. And so our new calculation would be proposed to increase from $5,000 to $8,362 for this year. And then also worth noting is that in future years, they noted that they plan to do a cost of living adjustment every year now, rather than wait 20 years and make a big adjustment as they did in the past. So we've attached their detailed letter explaining the basis for it in the agenda. I will just note, originally we had planned to bring this along with the budget, and it maybe made a little more sense because we were going to be approving sort of the expenses and then building them into the budget in the same night. We ended up doing the budget last meeting, and we didn't want to hold it up for this, so this is coming after the fact. It's a little bit out of sync, but the item is on the agenda for the council to approve moving forward with the $8,362 and future cost of living adjustments. We noted in the staff report that there's really three main options: is that council could approve the budget appropriation, council could identify additional questions that we could request additional information from the RDP, or three, if the council were to choose to decline, we would have a follow-up conversation with RDP regarding options. But those are the three options for the council to consider at this time.
Thank you. Does council have any questions for staff? Seeing none, are there any public comments on this item?
No public comment.
Thank you. So the recommendation is to consider the approval of an increased budget appropriation in the amount of $8,362.39 and an annual cost living adjustment from $5,000 in prior years to continue participation with the RDP for fiscal year 24-25. May I have a motion and a second?
Motion to approve?
Second.
Any further discussion? Thank you, Madam Clerk.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to city manager comments and reports.
Yes, thank you. We have a couple. So we already talked about the 4th of July, so I won't go through that again. And give me 1 second. Thank you. Thanks. So just a couple of items. One is this weekend we had our first movie night of the year at Miranda Park, June 15th. We have some photos here on this slide. And we wanted to highlight and remind people that our next one is already planned and scheduled for July 12th. It'll be Finding Nemo at Hueneme Beach Park at 8:15 p.m. And so come join us at the Hueneme Beach Park for that one. The events are free admission with free parking, and then we have popcorn machines, and so bring your own blankets and your chairs, and then join us for movie night. And we have here the full list of scheduled movie nights this year, and we've also posted this information online. We also just wanted to take a moment. I think a lot of the questions we're getting, and a lot of the inquiries we're getting right now are related to Wainimi Beach. And I think it's that time of year that people are preparing for summertime to start. I think it's officially this weekend that summer starts. And so we just wanted to kind of answer some of the frequently asked questions. And we also did some social media outreach on these over the last couple days and one today as well, that we just want to highlight that lifeguard season officially starts on June 19th. From June 19th to August 20th, lifeguards will be at the beach 7 days a week. After August 20th, lifeguards will be there at Wainimi Beach on weekends through October 14th. We're reminding everybody to follow all posted rules, and one of the big ones that we have our big electronic signboard out down at the beach right now is the reminder that no dogs are allowed on the sand. So we're asking everybody to follow that. And our lifeguards have our Audubon Society provided brochures, and they'll be reminding people of that moving forward. And then we have made our annual parking permits available this month because we saw a lot of requests from people to be able to get them before the year starts and be ready for July 1st to use them. And so those are available now. And residents can come to our front counter here at City Hall and purchase an annual parking pass. There is a discounted parking pass for residents. Lastly, we just wanted to highlight, I think caught some people by surprise that we had our officers out in the Polaris vehicle, which is the beach vehicle pictured here. It looks like a photo shoot, but he's actually working. And we've had the officers out on the beach a few times, and they're getting the Polaris back out and putting it to use. And we plan to have a presence out on the beach this year with some of our bike patrols and also the Polaris vehicle. So if you have questions while at the beach, we have our lifeguards available, and hopefully you'll see the officers patrolling through one of those the bikes or the Polaris. And so we plan to have a presence at the beach this year during the summer. So we're getting ready for summer at Wainimi Beach. And then last is we wanted to let everybody know about, we've been trying to get the word out through various outlets about our updated street sweeping schedule, and just reminding people, I think some people maybe forgot why we were doing this, and I saw different theories on why. Because the discussion was quite a while ago. But we're just reminding everybody that we're implementing this really to reduce the impact on parking for all of our residents and to try to make life a little bit easier. But we know change is always hard, and I think right now some of the change is maybe causing a little bit of stress. So we want to highlight that we announced when we were putting the signs up that parking enforcement is paused. We didn't say how long initially because we're still hoping people follow the signs as much as they can. But I think we got so many questions that we just came out and said that parking enforcement is going to be paused for a while. We're planning to really pause, and I should be clear, parking enforcement related to street sweeping. So not all parking enforcement, but parking enforcement related to street sweeping is going to be paused through July 14th. And then starting on July 15th, warnings will be issued, but we're not going to cite until after back to school. So we want to give everybody the chance to get used to it, and then also, throw in the first week of going back to school and how stressful that is. We want to give people that time period to get through that. And so actual enforcement is going to begin on September 1st, related to the street sweeping schedule. And then just as a note, because we saw a lot of people ask if notices were going to be in utility bills. They are going to be in the bills. Those notices are coming out in the bills that will be mailed out on June 28th. And so our plan was to get the word out to everybody before any possibility of anybody getting a ticket or anything related to street sweeping. So we're rolling this out now. Signs have been updated officially at this point. We've gotten a couple questions, or there's a couple of maybe scheduling issues that we're looking at. And so we're going to plan to get that information, take questions, and if we need to adjust, we can adjust. But for the most part, response, once people understand that there's a pause in parking enforcement and they're not going to get a ticket for not knowing what's going on right on that first day, most of the response has been pretty positive to appreciating that we're trying to do something that makes life a little bit easier. So we're asking people to bear with us for the first couple of weeks as we get through that. So
I want to thank staff for that because it's been a long time coming.
thank you. And then last July 1st, we wanted to show what we're planning on the agenda right now. And I have up top a reminder that I almost forgot is that I'm still getting used to it. It's my first ever opportunity to celebrate Juneteenth. I know last year several cities adopted the holiday, and my prior city hadn't adopted it. So I'm still getting used to it, and I was told that it was Wednesday, and I was like, oh really? So so I'm learning. But so City Hall is going to be closed on June 19th, Wednesday, in honor of Juneteenth. And then when we come back, we'll be working on the agenda for July 1st. We have presentations scheduled, our quarterly employee recognition, Parks and Recreation Month proclamation, and a presentation from REACH with some, I think it's going to be sort of their plan as they kind of get restarted. And then for business items, we have a few things we're bringing back. We're going to bring back the survey results. We had taken the survey from multi-unit property owners regarding whether they would support non-smoking policies and if it would help them to be able to kind of give them the ability to require that from tenants. And so we're going to bring back those results. We're going to bring back, when we adopted the flag policy, we were asked to also do some research on the prisoner of war missing in action flag for specific holidays. And we decided to try to bring it back before 4th of July, which would potentially be one of the holidays that the council could consider including that on. And we'll, I should have mentioned that when, I think it was Mr. Murphy who spoke about the flag policy, and we'll reach out to him since we have his information and let him know that that's coming back to council on the July 1st meeting. And then we have an item that's going to be some issues or some efforts that we're trying to bring forward to address some of the issues on Surfside Drive and Market Street, things like the rapid flashing beacons at crosswalks and those types of things. And then lastly, the Measure U committee had asked us to do some, in their recommendations for their Measure U funds, one of the asks was whether we could do something like a graffiti removal kit to help private property owners. So we are planning to bring an item back to talk about that as well. So so those are the items planned for July 1st at this point. And with that, that's the city manager's report.
Does anyone have any questions for City Manager Vega? Thank you. Now we'll move on to council member reports and comments. Councilmember Martinez.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Perez. In regards to the sister city, I think we're moving slowly. I'm thankful to have Joan on our team. She says the nonprofit is moving smoothly, right? And we're set for Puerto Vallarta to visit on August 5th. If anybody wants to see any of the minutes from our meetings, it's on the website, wainimisistercities.org. You just go on the tab that says minutes and then, or meetings, and then it has a list of all the meetings. And so if you want to see what's going on, you can go on the website. But just to recap, we went over the bylaws, we went over the mission, vision, and values. We talked about the possible dates for the Puerto Vallarta visit and what we can do. So we're thinking about hosting a breakfast here in the city and showing them a little bit about the city, maybe taking them to the city museum. And none of this is set in stone, just for the record. These are just ideas that we were bouncing off of each other. And then maybe having a potluck / barbecue at the beach later that day, and use the bonfire pits, maybe do some s'mores. On Tuesday, thankfully, the port's been showing up to every single one of our meetings. And so one of the things that they mentioned is that they can do a boat tour and a presentation, especially because a lot of the people that are going to be showing up this time are more likely than not going to be new, and it's not going to be the same people that showed up last time. And we were thinking about hosting a fiesta event, and instead of doing Mexican food, maybe catering Filipino food, showing them how we're very diverse here in our city. And then showing real guppies, maybe this time at the pier, and then showing them how to fish, and then maybe ending on Wednesday at Full Saigon. But those were some of the ideas. I just want to mention that anybody can see our agenda and our minutes at www.wainemisisterscities.org. But you have to type in the www. Okay, I made the website, and I'm not sure exactly. Something happened, so I'm still figuring that out. I haven't actually looked into it since the last meeting, so I'm just being honest. And then in regards to and our next meeting's on July 3rd at 6 p.m. We're gonna try to also apply a Zoom component to that, so that Councilmember Hernandez can attend and some of the other members, to make it easier for everyone. And then Reach. We're hosting we're gonna have our next meeting on the 24th at 4:30. We're gonna have some new members, and also Reach is gonna come forth to City Council sometime soon to ask for permits to do basketball tournaments and pickleball tournaments. We're rebranding the nonprofit as more of a working board now, and so that's what we've been pushing for. So we're looking for members that want to work and they want to get their hands dirty and they want to do things in our city specific to recreation, education, culture, and arts in the city of Hueneme.
And fundraising.
All right.
Sorry?
I said and fundraising.
Well, the basketball and pickleball tournaments would be fundraisers. Yeah.
Thank you. Anything further, Councilmember Martinez?
I just want to say that I'm a very happy council member today. The mural, the 3-point contest, the K9, I think all of these are things that we can celebrate. Obviously, with some of the public comments that we had in early on, there's always going to be room for improvement. But from my experience here on City Council is that we've been continually improving and making the city a better place for all of our residents and our neighbors as well.
Absolutely. Councilmember Gama?
I couldn't agree more with that, and I think it was really healthy going through the mural and looking at it. It's great, and we all give our little input, and then it's going to come back even better. And there's a lot of great things going on in the city. I was able to attend the movie in the park at Miranda Park, and it was just such a comfortable-looking event. Everybody's happy, and whether you like the movie or not, you're going to have a good time. And I just enjoy seeing that. And this 211 thing, I can't get it off on my mind, and I would like to challenge everyone up here on the dais. Hey, let's all get familiar with this, and let's figure out, how we can work it. And then once we enjoy it and learn, then let's really push this out, because this has a value that I think we don't realize. And if we could become like the guinea pigs of 211 and then be able to articulate to a school district, to a senior citizen, to a disabled person, to somebody that needs help, to my mother, this thing about medical rideshare. Sometimes I have trouble getting my mother to the medical appointments and I have to miss work and stuff. And so I'm really excited to challenge myself, and I want to challenge the rest of us. Let's really learn how to use this thing so that we could push it out and get people using it more. I just love that. So Hueneme Beach Cleanup is becoming something of a phenom, and I'll be honest with you, sometimes it's hard, and I hope not too many people show up today, because I'd like to be done early, and the other last week, Walenas showed up, and they gave me a last minute courtesy call, which was nice, but they brought like 50 people, and at first I'm like, but then it turns into joy. Had to run home and get some more equipment, and but it really is a joy. And I think back to all the kids and their community service hours and all the good things that are happening. it's pretty cool. So we, and then Coastal Keeper Surf Rider was out there this Saturday. And I, you know, and I'm a terrible data person, but I bet if I started keeping data, the numbers would be just blow your mind. So for example, in a year's time, how many people come to either Ormond or Hueneme Beach to do beach cleanup? The number has to be over 1,000, maybe 1,500, maybe more. And then when we start thinking about how much trash have we dragged off the beach, and sometimes we do drag on reinforced plastic trash off the beach, and so it's like a team building exercise, and so it's really good. And then the beach is clean; it looks good, and people appreciate it, and so I'm really stoked about that. I just want to make a comment regarding going green, and I think going green is great, especially if you live over here on this side of town and it's a hot night and you have your window open, and there has been many times where you could smell the emissions coming in from the port, coming into my windows that are open. So I really applaud the effort to minimize emissions and go green. Then there's the however part. And recently there was some discarded EV batteries were off-gassing at the Port of Hueneme, and apparently they caught fire, and it led to an evacuation of the port for 6 hours. And if you're downwind from it, you know, that could be a really interesting way to wake up. But I think looking forward and realizing that there's going to be more and more and more electric vehicle batteries piling up. And if you think about in the past of those big piles of black tires, is there going to be big piles of EV batteries degrading, off-gassing, catching fire in our environment? So I just hope that we start thinking about how are we going to manage batteries when they become obsolete, when they become discarded. The cost is very, very high, and I think we should. I'm not going to ask for an agenda, but I just would encourage us to start thinking about that, because the port has big plans to go all electric, from what I understand from their Ocean Blue thing last week, which I was unable to attend. But like I said, they had a fire, they had to evacuate, and I think we should pay heed to that and know that prudent and responsible management of battery disposal is going to be a big issue into the future as we become more and more green and using electric vehicles. And that's it.
All right, Councilmember Hernandez.
I've attended all my meetings and plan to attend my meetings this week and up until our next meeting. I have no items. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem. Yes.
Just a couple of items. Thank you to our city manager for bringing up Juneteenth. I participated in the Oxnard's 33rd annual Juneteenth celebration as an elected official. I was called on stage, and in the absence of our mayor.
I was not, I did not know.
I know. They just to get a list and call all elected officials and come up on the stage. And
They didn't even
so
tell
anyway,
me I should be there.
So anyway, I spoke on your behalf and
Thank
just,
you. Appreciate
thank
that.
folks for being out and talked about the history. But I would like to ask the city to, if we can, in the future, make sure that we do I can give you the information, maybe a proclamation for Juneteenth. And while it's Oxnard's, while it's under the heading of Oxnard, it is the Ventura County Juneteenth. That's kind of the title that they go under. So I'd like to make sure that we can provide them a proclamation every year. And so Juneteenth is on the 19th, but the event was on the 15th. So we have to keep that in mind because it's generally on a Saturday. I did participate in the Port's press event, the Ocean Zero Emission Blueprint event. So I just participated in the press event portion. I had another meeting I had to go to. And then participated, of course, we heard today in the RDP report, change of command. So Commander Kimnock has been relieved. New commander is Commander Daniel D.B. Brown. And then The final thing is, so to go to the change of command, I missed the VCTC meeting, so I gave them a heads up and said I have another event. And I missed the previous one. I must have been sick or on vacation. I don't know what it was, but I missed. And one of the Port Hueneme residents saw me at Juneteenth and said, "I've been looking for you. You missed 2 meetings."
Oh.
And so I'm just saying that out loud so you all know that they're watching us. And, you know, and I said, well, I'm so glad you at least looked for me to know that I wasn't there. And I promise I'll be at the next one. So yeah, so I thought that was interesting. But, you know, I'm glad he said it, because sometimes we get lackadaisical and we kind of say we're not going to do. But I don't do that. I'm not talking about me. But yeah, so he told me that I hadn't been there, and I said, you're absolutely right. And I had explained myself. And so, yeah, so I thought that was pretty neat. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. I participated this year in the torch run for the first time and got to be the handoff for the torch from Oxnard PD to Hueneme with members of our Port Hueneme Police Department and our city manager. I only did 2 miles of that race because I had to get back to work, but I was proud to participate in that anyway. That was a hard run, let me tell you. Just that 2 miles. I was not practicing or running for the previous 2 weeks, so I was not ready for that, and it was pretty rough that day. I'd held the torch. Yeah, that thing is heavy, let me tell you. So then I, along with others, colleagues, attended the Navy change of command, and that was such a moving ceremony. He brought me to tears with his comments, Captain Kimnock, and he was funny. He kept it. It was engaging, and he's very charismatic, and I laughed and cried, and it was a really sweet ceremony. And the Port Hueneme PD Explorer Car Show, I hear, was a huge success, although we haven't heard the details from that, but they do a great job every year, and we presented, along with the port, their $5,000 community benefit fund check. So we did that presentation that day. The Port City meeting, yes, I need to do a report on that. So the basics of that last meeting we had with the port was to kind of go over our list versus their list, and they recommended that we reduce the amount of agencies and entities and people that we give to and pick some solid ones and give more to. So we kept which organizations did we keep? I know we kept the Real Guppies, Port Hueneme Explorers, NLECEC, and I think there were a couple more that we kept, the nonprofits that we support, maybe Little League and...
Yeah, I think Little League was on
the Little
there.
League, and then there might have been one more. We added the elementary school to support them in whatever need that they have. So that'll be
Uniforms for their performing arts groups.
their
yeah.
performing arts, yes. And then the port recommended that we invest money in a grant writer to help us with some really large grants that we want to possibly take advantage of that I guess require a lot more time than what the city has.
You just reminded me, if I may, so when the port talks about grants, big grants that they get, those are tax dollars, right? It's coming from the government. And so how can we be a part of that? Because any big grant that the port gets impacts the city of Port Hueneme. And so I was wondering, is there a way to tie those, like for us to just make that realization that, hey, you know, because you got to come through the city to get to the port. So
I think that's the thought process with this, is that if we apply for some grants for mutually beneficial projects where, you know, like for example, and timing may not allow this to happen, but we're planning to pave Hueneme Road next year, and the port's planning to pave their section of Hueneme Road next year. So if we could apply for a grant together, because of the importance of that part of the street to the whole world, basically, by goods going through there, that we can apply for grants to get all the project funded for all of us, and we all benefit. So that's kind of the idea we're going for. And yeah, for the most part, if grants are funded by the federal government, state government, which are usually the biggest ones, those are tax dollars one way or another. But a lot of those grant funds they make available, and a lot of times it's if you have the right application, you get that funding and you bring it into your community. So that's what we're looking to do by partnering with the port. So.
And hiring somebody that can do these professional grants for us that are going to take a lot more staff time than we have, and a lot more investment in what we need to hopefully be able to get awarded some. So that was a good recommendation from the port. And another one was the DC trip, obviously, where we want to maximize that relationship a little bit more so than what we did the last one, and really hone in on what Hueneme needs and what we can get out of that trip. So we'll be having planning meetings before that. We're probably not doing that until October, so I expect we'll have planning meetings to talk about what all of us would like to get out of that DC trip. That'll give us plenty of time to do that. There's also still money that has not been allocated. So there was some discussions, but they are coming back with some other stuff, right? That was my last take, is they're coming back again with some other ideas, but there's still money that has not been allocated. So that was the gist of that meeting. And to go over, James went over our budget and what was going on with the city and how that impacts possibly some stuff with them. And I think there was one more thing that we went over. Oh, nope, that was it. Okay. That's pretty much it from the Port City Committee meeting. Thank you. And moving on, any future agenda items? Councilmember Martinez. Councilmember Gama. Nope. All right, then I am going to adjourn this meeting. The next regularly scheduled meeting is Monday, July 1st at 6:30 p.m. The meeting is now adjourned. I almost forgot about that. I knew I wrote a memo on it earlier.